The Board of County Commissioners meeting for Custer County will come to order. Let the record show today is October 24th, 2018 at 9 o'clock a.m. in Wetmore, Colorado. Appreciate that. Mr. Byerly, would you do the honor, sir, and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that. Since you're the only one in a formal attire today, I thought that...
Long day of meetings.
Yes. Madam Secretary, would you conduct the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Candace.
Here.
Commissioner Prince. Present. Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Thank you, ma'am. Want to formally welcome our comrade in arms down there.
That's hop-along hazardy.
I'm sorry, yeah, comrade in arm. Yeah, arm.
Hop-along Cassidy.
Nice to see you again, sir. You feeling all right?
I'm hanging in there.
Hanging in there.
Met up with a cow. You should have seen the cow he wrestled.
Our attorney had issues with a livestock trailer. And I've been charged, gentlemen, with certainly nothing to do with a bribe, but our election helper said, take these down, give these to the appropriate people so they will not pick on the election judges. I already had one. These are caramel
And yet,
M&Ms.
yesterday, there was only one of you picking on the election.
And so why do the rest of them? I could have had 5 bags.
That's supposed to sweeten your disposition.
Probably.
Ah,
Gentlemen, any amendments to the agenda?
I do not have
Nor do I. Thank
No.
you. Audience introductions. We'll start with Miss Brenda.
Brenda Gady, assistant to the board.
Jackie Bubis with Sentinel.
Nan Davenport from Wetmore.
Karen Smith, yes, clerk.
Our Shan Brother, sure.
Mary Smith is deputy emergency manager. Cindy Howard, emergency manager.
Ruth Roper, Wetmore Fire.
Bruce Spar, Wetmore.
John Spar, Wetmore.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm Crystal Farrell.
Texas.
Carl, Texas. Sorrel, Carl, Texas. Name, Carl, Texas.
Danny Newton Westcliff.
On the Newton West Front.
Nice to have you. I don't know about this Texas bunch.
Hope they're planning on moving in here.
Nice to have you folks. Nice to have you. Welcome. Approval of the minutes, gentlemen, September 28th, October 2nd,
I
and
move
October
we
3rd.
approve all 3 of them.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Been moved and seconded to approve the BOCC minutes from September 28th, October 2nd, and October 3rd. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Minutes for September 28th, October 2nd, and 3rd are approved. Commissioner items, Commissioner Prince. You're welcome, sir.
I extended the presentation of an award to our Department of Public Services, Human Services, I'm sorry, for exemplary services conducted last year. I met with Brian Turner with Sol Vista. He is the new president. We talked about affordable housing and how Sol Vista and the county could mingle and get things done together. Of course, we all attended budget hearings all of 1 week. I attended the Custer County Emergency Services meeting and the affordable housing meeting last week also.
Good.
That's what I did.
Okay, good. Since our last BOCC meeting, obviously we had our preliminary budget workshop prior to the actual budget hearings. So that was on October 3rd. October 9th through the 12th was our budget hearings. October 11th, I participated in an extension conference call preparing for the interview process for a new county extension agent. Attended tourism board meeting, CES meeting. Then we, on the 17th, attended a site meeting on County Road 386, trying to deal with the phone outage with, we met with Forest Service, CenturyLink, and then some representatives from Custer County. I also attended the Attainable Housing meeting on the 18th, as well as the E911 meeting, and then had another conference call with CSU regarding the extension position. And yesterday I attended a weed board meeting, so that's kind of what I've been doing, making some phone calls, talked with Christy Doon, with DOLA, also about the CenturyLink phone outage. So that's kind of what I've been up to. Commissioner Ken?
Yeah, boy, we've had a lot going on since our last meeting, which was really the 3rd of October, I think it was. So we've done an awful lot. They've mentioned it already, so I won't go over it to save some time because we got a big agenda. But I did do, along the lines of the CenturyLink issue, I went to Denver and testified in front of the PUC up there, the Board of Commissioners for the PUC, on the issue. If you don't know it, the state has passed a law that says they're not going to take federal funds anymore or state funds and subsidize phone companies, communication companies in rural areas, which is kind of crazy. They started that back in the 50s because they wanted to have telephones to everybody, and there's not a business case to be made to bring it into Westcliff or Wetmore or all these small places back in those days. So it was necessary. But they, in their wisdom, decided to do away with that subsidy, which makes it harder and less likely that telephone companies are going to want to repair your lines quickly. And for sure, we didn't want to have them stop in the middle of our outage here. And so we tried to convince them, and I think we did a good job. Adam Rice was there, and I think it was Tammy, can't remember. But anyway, we did testify there, and it was well received. The crux of our argument was, don't cut us off now, do it later. Put us at the back of the line until we get through this. And they were very sympathetic. So we'll see what that yields. Also walked the wash out with Tom and several others, that CenturyLink guys. Forest Service was there. Lots of good people, and we came up with lots of good ideas, some of which would include probably stringing a line along hardscrabble with pitons into the rocks just to connect people, get off these cell phones. But we'll see as things evolve. So stay tuned on that. Also, we had a lot of work with the airport. I'm going to save comments on that to the end, okay, because it's lengthy. Not lengthy, but it's very interesting, Neil. So we'll do that, as well as strategic planning for the Custer County. Big strategic plan, worked a lot on that. And that's an item that's coming up here in a minute at the end of the agenda. And, of course, the 911 Authority Board meeting, we're working the only issue there is updating radios and getting more radios and that kind of thing. And so we're going to look at grants. I will be helping with that along with Tom. And, in fact, we'll work options with DOLA, as Tom mentioned, on the CenturyLink issue as well. And coming up, are we still doing the Justice Center meeting, Shannon, today? Yeah. So, looking forward to it. See more of you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I had another item that I thought we ought to discuss real quick, and that is a letter of support for the Human Services through Sol Vista. I think, gentlemen, you got a copy of that letter.
Yeah.
Sol Vista has asked us to write a letter of support for the Help Colorado's commitment for their Colorado Crisis Service Administration. So I would request that we consider that. If I suppose we probably ought to have a motion to sign that letter of support, which I have a letter here today.
I'll go ahead and move that we sign the letter of support for Sylvester.
All right.
I'll second. Go ahead.
Been moved and seconded to sign a letter of support addressed to the Colorado Department of Human Services on behalf of Sol Vista and Custer.
Just a comment, I met with Brian Turner, who's the new president, very enthusiastic young man. I think there's going to be some great things that they can help with the county, and I encouraged him to request this.
Yeah, we did not get this on an agenda, so I thought this would be the appropriate place to deal with it. Further discussion, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will sign as well as you gentlemen. We'll give that to Miss Brenda.
Sign it.
And of course, we saved the best commissioner item for last. We invited Cindy Howard and Meredith Nichols to come down today because we wanted to present her with a certificate. If you guys want to come up, we will do that. I will wait till you get up here. We maybe step out front and then we can greet them as well.
You're gonna be
Yeah.
That looks just like
Little treacherous.
the course, not long enough. So how do you want to do it?
Oh, one of them can come down and one can be on the end.
Get on the
I
other
don't know.
one.
So, if you don't know, Meredith has been working with Cindy Howard in the Office of Emergency Management, and she completed her Emergency Management Academy, and so we wanted to present her certificate. It says Certificate of Achievement awarded to Meredith Nichols for superior achievement and excellence in completion of the Colorado Emergency Management Academy this 24th day of October in the year of 2018. So, are you the official photographer?
Maybe, I don't know, I was just looking around. and thinking,
Flying in.
But I turned my phone on.
Don't worry, the mom's got it.
Now it's your head.
Good call.
You could have given me your phone. Oh, no, here we go. I'm ready.
Sorry, I'm going to give Mr. Byerly my phone so he can take one as well. But
Pretty.
Okay, say cheese.
Get a picture of the picture.
we could say emergency. No.
It's going to be an emergency because we're locked in this room.
That's right. There we go. And so this is your family?
Yes,
Back there. All right. Well, welcome you guys. Nice to have you. Love this lady. I'm telling you. She does a great job. And,
Congratulations. Thanks for telling me. We're going to miss you.
Try to pick a good one.
get her in on the wrist, huh? That's a mess back there.
Thank you.
I got to go to work.
All right. Good to see you.
I guess they were here for all the one thing.
Yeah. Pledge. All right. Attorney items.
On October 8th, I decided to do my own personal test of the efficiency of our emergency medical services. And I give them a thumbs up.
Permanently.
Very, very efficient. I was very impressed, and also the sheriff's department for coming up holding my hand while we were waiting for them. So, thank you all for that. Haven't done a whole lot since our last meeting, other than tax my personal caretaker, my wife Karen, who's also my designated driver right now. On that matter we've talked about before, where we had an executive session, the individual that is threatening action continues to do so, but hasn't done anything yet. So I just continue to monitor that and see where that's going. Shannon had sent me an email right around the same time I had my accident about a legal issue. I've been doing research on that, and I'll get together with you and we'll talk about that and discuss our options. It'll probably be something we may want to have an executive session on with the commissioners at some point. And that's about it. And Jackie sends me things, and I've just been ignoring her lately.
How do you do it? Let me.
Yeah, tell us how you manage that.
Give me your secret.
Because,
That's a good skill.
That's about it.
okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I'm left to wonder if you received any special treatment because you're the county attorney, or does the sheriff's department always go and hold everybody's hand all they wait?
I think that's just the quality of
The way it is.
the training of the people there. That's right.
It doesn't surprise me by any means, but I just wonder.
Will you hold my hand?
Yeah. So you can pick and choose, right?
There is one exception in the county.
I'm glad you're it and not me.
Jackie knows that's not true. We hold her hand on lots of site visits.
Counselor, I'm inclined to ask you, as well as my fellow commissioners, about an executive session for a personnel issue on maybe our October 31st meeting. I was just looking at that agenda. We do vouchers, we have approval of the bylaws for attainable housing, appoint a member for attainable housing, and then a discussion with the entities involved with the S-brand. I'm not sure that that's actually going to occur, but that's what's on the agenda for the 31st.
We will probably have Cheryl Trent here for either that day or the first day. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I was going to
So-
talk about that.
Could we tolerate an executive session on the 31st
Fine with me.
to deal with personnel?
I'm fine. It's something that needs to be handled sooner.
No, I don't think so.
Necessary, I would think we could adjourn here and then re-adjourn, or suspend here and re-adjourn above.
Yeah.
If you want to do it today.
Yeah,
just
I think
throw it out.
it'll be all right for the 31st.
Actually, we may move that to the first or second. Yes,
The executive session, the S-brand, but not the executive session. So if it's okay, gentlemen, then I would request an executive session on the 31st to discuss a personnel issue. And Ms. Brenda can make a note of that. Thank you, I appreciate it. Anything else, Counselor? All right, thank you. Administrative assistant items.
Have nothing?
Public comment. Yes, ma'am.
Shannon's hands are really soft.
I'm going to get a cup of coffee. Start that recording over.
Make sure that's good in.
Yeah, see,
I will note that in the paper.
we can get by with a little of this because we're not live streaming this meeting, but,
Never recorded those.
oh yeah, there's
It is
probably
recorded.
recorders laying everywhere, that's right.
It's okay,
It is.
because they can tell it's a jest.
Recorded is the official.
Recorded, yeah.
It'll be on the website.
Barney, nice to have your name mentioned in the minutes again. So, yeah, excellent. All right,
I got it, yeah.
staff report. Planning and zoning.
Yay.
Yay! Would you want, yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna grab hard, 'cause I don't like
good morning. Jackie, how are you?
No. I'm good.
I want you to be truthful.
Ears are rough.
All right.
Do you swear to tell the... That's a different deal. Sorry.
Okay, let's start with the first thing on the agenda.
I gotta find your business first, so. Bumblebee storage? Okay.
Bumblebee Storage was approved for a special use permit on September 7th, 2017 with enclosed conditions. I have enclosed the letters that have been written to this gentleman with the violations that he has with his storage. Because when you do get a special use permit, they come with conditions. He has not followed through on 3 of the conditions: fencing, painting, and lighting. Then we all got a letter, again from the gentleman, stating that he was ill. And then the last letter, I was pretty ugly on my last letter. I said, this is it. And so then he sent a letter to the Planning Commission plus the commissioners, stating that not only that, but he would like to live now in the storage container. I can't make this up.
I don't mean that, I'm sorry. I just picture.
Okay, but that's not the issue. The issue started with him not fulfilling his special use permit. And then if you noticed, I also included the zoning resolution. So I think we have the bigger issue of not following through on your special use permit. And if you look at 9.3.4, a SUP granted pursuant to this section may be suspended, revoked, or modified by the BOCC after holding a public hearing to determine whether any condition, stipulation, or term of the approval of the use permit has been violated. It is a sad situation, I agree, but we need to back up. This gentleman is sick. There's no doubt about it. But this started prior to the illness. And so I think that we need to address the revoking the special use permit.
There's a couple questions if I may. First, the last thing, I'd like to get a recommendation from you, however you want to do what you feel we should do. So my question is, if we suspended it, and then he went ahead and accomplished what he's lacking, would he need to pay another fee for the reinstatement of the special use permit? Okay.
It's not in our regs, because I think that's something that we've never dealt with before.
Okay. Just didn't know.
But then here's another situation. Let's say that you suspend it or revoke it. It's not, we got another issue because it's not like poof, it goes away. We still have all that stuff sitting there.
Plus, he wants to modify it. So it's not going to be just reinstating it.
And
Right.
there's third party personal property in his storage containers, right? People wrapped him and put theirs. So what we do to him has a significant effect on people who are not in violation. They just follow whatever his rule is.
Yeah, and that would be my question too, Commissioner Prince, if I may. Your letter dated September the 18th. I'll just read what I'm interested in here. Is that this date the fence has not been erected, you have 2 weeks to come into full compliance or the SUP will be revoked and the renters will not be able to access their units. Does that mean we're going to padlock their units? Why would they not be able to access them? Because there's no fence, correct?
Yeah, we padlock them. Correct.
No, we'd have to let them get their property out.
We can't That's where I was
We're
going
gonna have
with
a
my
yard
question. We can, I don't know how we can deny access to someone who is not in violation of any. of
Correct,
our
okay, I see that.
ordinances.
So they would probably have a time period
That's
to
what
get their
We would do this.
property out. But there's still two issues, but I don't think we need to deal with the second issue because this is my situation. If we allow someone to live in one of these containers, like there's a lot of work that has to be done to bring them up to code. Plumbing, electrical, and septic and stuff. So I think that's off. Personally, I would hope that you would just nix that idea and we deal with the first issue.
Is that your recommendation?
Yes, but that's not, I'm just speaking for
For that
myself.
one part about him living in it. Now, my understanding would be that he, at this point, does not have a septic system, does not have electrical service, and he's in violation of all of our sanitary codes, is that correct?
Yes.
So, even if we wanted to do it, we really can't. Is that a fair statement to say?
If we did allow it, then he would have to do all that to live in it. Yes, correct.
He's not living in it now.
No, and if you read his letter, he said that he needs to put his house up for sale and that he could live with a friend.
So that's not an issue.
I didn't believe it was.
I feel really bad for the gentleman. I'm sorry he's ill, but we have regulations, and when you follow them, and if someone comes with an excuse, the dog ate my homework type thing, and I don't mean to belittle what he's saying. I don't think we can just make exceptions. See how to plan that. We could say, well, we'll give you 2 extra weeks. But that's not part of this. I read all of your correspondence and his. I just don't see it. So if it's your recommendation that we, Part A, deny living in a storage container without the proper amenities, I'll defer to my fellow commissioners, but I would feel that's an appropriate recommendation.
I don't think that he shouldn't even be making that recommendation. It doesn't fit the timeline, so that could be down the road, I think.
It just doesn't, it's not.
So we got to deal with it one thing at a time. He's in violation of these other things first, because he can't live in it, period, until it's modified.
Correct.
So that's not.
And I don't think that should even be on the board. And
No.
I think that we're all on the same page. We all understand that life happens and that you do, but this happened prior. The violations to the very much of the illness, because if you look back a year ago, I was corresponding with him to saying, hey, you don't got your conditions met. This has been a problem from the beginning, and I hate to say this, but it's sitting by a subdivision, and the town is sitting not far away from the town limits, and they have the subdivision there, Shadow Ridge. So then we have the people in Shadow Ridge complaining about them not following through with the conditions, plus the U-Haul going through Shadow Ridge where they weren't supposed to. But no one has got me a license plate number.
So the 2 conditions are painting it and fencing. Is that right?
And the light.
And the what?
Light.
The lights, security lights. Okay, so if we say he's in violation, which I agree with he is, and he said, so what do you do to stop it? How do you just put a gate up? What do you do?
What is your recommendation
yeah.
to revoke the SUP? And then we can talk about how we do it.
He can remedy
We
it
want
later.
to give enough time to the folks who
Or
are
suspend it until these, you may not rent these storage units anymore. You can't rent any more storage units until you come up to conditions.
We have no ordinance that says we'll fine you, we'll...
Yeah, we do.
We do have one?
It's $100 a day.
If he violates the conditions of the...
Well, you're going to squeeze a turnip. There's nothing there. So I think telling him he can't rent it is probably the biggest penalty.
I really would like
for now.
And I don't mean this in as a harsh way, but I kind of feel like the county's been taking advantage of it. Jackie and her department has been over backwards trying to help this gentleman. I would like to make him apply for a new SUP once the temporary one. I would like him to hit his pocketbook. I want him to have to pay for that because it's just not a free ride. You know, I didn't feel like doing it now. Now you get a little tough. It's like I'll have to do it. It doesn't sit well with me. And I think it's not a good precedent for us to set.
What do you think, Tom?
Well, my perspective on this is, one, I think this is part of a bigger problem that we're going to face as county commissioners. Jackie is inundated with people who are not doing what they're supposed to do. I certainly don't get by in my life with just blowing people off, blowing regulations off, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for people that live their life that way. I certainly understand his situation. His situation did not exist when these problems first arose, so I would certainly support revoking this SUP, communicating with him that he is not to rent any more of those storage units until he gets another SUP and brings his property into compliance, or bring his property into compliance before we issue another SUP. That's where I'm at.
And I would agree with that. What I'd like to do though is give him enough time to allow him to notify his renters that they must vacate their units by, and I don't know if 30 days is appropriate, 60 days, whatever you feel is appropriate.
Let's talk about that just a little bit, because that's a good point.
Because I want to give them an opportunity.
Are they fully rented now? Everything's full and all of them? They're not, right? So he can't get new renters. I don't know that you require them to leave while he brings it up to code. Is that...
But if we revoke it, and I concur with that plan, because then if he wants to come back,
we need to
he has to
revoke it.
start the process from day one.
Yeah.
And the Planning and Zoning Commission could decide whether to recommend to us to give him a special use permit or not. So I agree with Commissioner Flower, probably revoking is the best way, but we have to...
Well, I agree we should revoke it. I'm just wondering how to handle the renters. How would you do it, Clint? Because you got to give them an eviction notice, and for whatever the reasons are.
Well, I'm looking at the provision that Jack decided here, 9.3.4, revocation of the special use permit. Talks about holding a public hearing. I mean, I guess we're having a public hearing now, but I think it should be a little more formal hearing where we give notice. Does he know about this? Was he given an opportunity to be here today? I did. We ought to let him know, and we ought to let all the tenants know.
Yeah.
And have a formal hearing on this so that they understand what's going on and what's going to happen.
And we got to have a clear understanding what the penalties are and what they have to do if we revoke it. They got to move out, which costs them money.
That would be the polite and really actually the nicest way to do it, is to set up a hearing time where he could speak in his defense too.
Right.
Where is this anyway?
31st.
And then I actually have learned a good lesson on this one, because when we place conditions on something, we say that all containers need to be painted. I guess I never specified
When?
what type of painting.
Yeah, those are painted probably.
Sides of them are painted, the sides of the south ones, but the rest are not.
You wanted uniform paint or something, right?
Better paint job, but I don't know how you say that. So, I have some other people that are coming up that are going to be hard hitters. So, do you want to set a date, and then I'll send Mr. Cho a letter stating that he's invited to a public hearing to discuss the situation?
I would even, my suggestion would be, and I certainly defer, not just discuss the situation, to face a tribunal as to why we should not revoke his special use permit. Put him on the defensive so that he understands that this is not we're sorry that you're not well. This is, we're getting ready to revoke you if you have something in your offense that we're not familiar with, you better come tell us.
It's a straight up hearing on revoking his permit.
Right.
Would you have Mr. Hopalong Cassidy do that letter, or do I?
Why don't you do it and send it to me and let me take a look at it? Oh, we'll take a look to see
Jackie's gonna.
if you put it together.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at a couple of
Do you have a
upcoming
date?
agendas.
How much time do we
My suggestion would be we schedule that on November the 1st. Yes, ma'am?
I don't know that he legally is obligated to give you the names of his renters.
No, we're not.
And, well, but if you want them to know that there's going to be a hearing, you probably ought to put some sort of
Public notice for a
Yeah.
hearing.
That's all.
But
Right.
it wouldn't
That's
be
an
a,
excellent thought. We ought to put
but it
something
wouldn't
in.
be a hearing for his renters.
No.
No, it's a hearing for the revocation of his
At that time,
permit.
we'll tell him that your renters will get padlocked, and, this may incur significant liability.
Maybe in the body of the letter, I'll put something that, you may want to notify your renters that the state
That'd
will
be
be
fine.
coming
I think
out.
we can enforce it.
Can you work with Counselor on drafting a letter and also a notice for the paper? I would move that we schedule a special hearing for the revocation of an SUP for Bumblebee Storage November 1 after our Board of County Commissioners meeting.
So then get that out right away.
In the afternoon, right?
No.
Yeah, so
Right, but
maybe we should set it for,
Set it for a time, 2 in the,
2 o'clock.
the afternoon.
jumped in on that one.
It's a good point.
You might want to handle
I'm good at 2 o'clock. I'm good the whole day.
Yeah,
On
I've
the
got a
second?
site visit on the AT&T tower, but that's
On the second?
by 2, so on the 1st.
So
2 o'clock.
Is it 2 o'clock?
That'll work.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to schedule a public hearing for the revocation of an SUP for Bumblebee Storage on November 1st at 2 p.m. Discussion.
I don't have time to get a public notice out.
What do you have to hit?
Do we need a public notice? He's notified. We're not. That's a question. I don't know.
Yeah, this isn't the kind of hearing where we have to publish a notice, but we need to give him notice to be present in this hearing.
So should I have the sheriff's department deliver the letter or myself?
Why don't you just take it to him? He's not dangerous if you feel like
Not yet.
you don't want anybody with soft hands going.
That was harsh. Further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries.
It's gonna be in
Scheduled in the
Commissioners' room.
Commissioners' room at 2 p.m. on November the 1st.
We're going to have some
Yeah. Okay. Miss Jackie, anything else?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Daniel Gunlock.
and
He is living on some property, and we have dealt with him.
quarter money.
And we actually decided that it was better if he had some place to use the restroom and while he was on the property. So we actually told him that we would allow him to have a porta potty for 6 months, and that way he could make plans of getting a septic system in.
When was that, Jackie? Is it
That
in
was
here?
3/8 of 17. And then we extended it because we got a letter from Daniel, and we did this in a commissioners meeting on 3/8 of 18. Well, Daniel got 6 more months, and I think I included Daniel's letter to you.
Okay, I've got it.
Dated September 19th.
Yep.
So, Daniel says that he's gonna live with a friend, but he still wants to go to his structure on the property that he calls his shop and work. Well, that's great, but if there's no place to go to the restroom, then the neighbors see him.
Bless you.
Your recommendation?
Well, Clint and I have both been involved in this one.
Where'd you say it was located, Jackie?
On 250
254.
254.
Has he-
Take 255, make a right, and go to,
Has he pulled a septic permit?
no. This is, and we've had other issues that we've dealt with. Here's his shop.
So he's applying for a variance on the OWTS, correct?
It's not what he wants, it's what he has to have. He has to have a facility, either install an improved
Some
septic
shop.
system, or, that's basically it. So he said he didn't have any money, so we gave him a variance for the porta potty. Then he came back in and we gave him a 6-month extension.
So you got enough room for a septic tank on this place?
Oh, yes.
Big enough?
He asked you for another septic or you're just for another extension, I mean? or-
Yes, that's what the, well, it's a bad situation because part of me says, you know, you shouldn't even, everybody says they're gonna build a shop and it's not really a shop. But we gotta have, we can't allow this to continue because we enforce, by the state of Colorado, it has to be enforced that anytime you occupy a structure, that you have to have a septic system. So the neighbors are complaining, but in 2 ways. The neighbors don't want to see Daniel outside using the restroom, and they also don't think it's fair that Daniel can get a porta potty when everyone else is getting a septic system. So I'm kind of stuck.
So if I understand it right, he can go live with a friend. You revoke this. He's not going to have a porta potty out there. He can still go to his place, but how do you contain him? You know, he can come and go. So I don't know how you'd enforce.
Can't lock him out of his property, can you?
Well, we can do the cease and desist order and do what we've done is put up that tape that we can block it off and say it's not habitable and nobody can use it
Right.
until he comes into compliance. Because I think this is going to be a continuing problem. People are just going to
Yeah.
keep pushing and finding excuses not to do it. And we're just going to have to deal with it.
You know, we have given him options, and that's great. And by the way, for everybody's sake, it's great that we're a small county and you're a face and a not just a name and a number and your personality. So we've done that already. Eventually, you got to cut and fish, right? Cut bait. I agree. I think we ought to revoke it, and then that ought to incite him to. He must have a way of figuring out how to get a septic system in there, or not, and we can deal with it. He can reapply.
We are not revoking, we're denying the extension of the variance, is that correct?
Yeah,
And
that's.
we're asking if the cease and desist order be issued property line. Is that
Yeah, what we've done is put the tape and the notice on the door. And it does require periodic inspection of the premises to be sure the tape's still intact, hasn't been taken down.
So if he violates that, Clint, what happens then?
Then we're
Would be
going
the
to have to go to
step.
court and get an injunction against it.
What's the board's pleasure?
I move we don't extend the
Deny the variance?
variance.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, but can I suggest an amendment
Sure.
or an addition to it saying that in addition that a cease and desist order
Yeah,
and the accompanying tape or whatever is part
well,
of
the
it,
process.
part of your motion.
Sure.
The process, right?
Been moved and seconded to deny the variance for the on-site wastewater treatment facility for Mr. Gunlack, and that we proceed with cease and desist orders. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ms. Jackie, will you move forward with that and work with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Next. You're just a barrel of fun, aren't you?
Barrel of good news. Got another one coming up, eh?
It is Halloween, I mean, we do.
Okay, so the next one is Terry Carpenter. Provided in your packet is a timeline. It started in July 3rd of 2013. This has been an ongoing situation. Mr. Prince has been involved in 2 of the hearings. The first hearing was with the prior commissioners, and we let him have an extension because of the circumstances that he presented during the hearing. Then his extension for getting a septic system wasn't followed through. So then, in the meantime, I found a contractor that was willing to work with Mr. Carpenter. And at that time, Mr. Carpenter at the hearing stated that he had $1,500 in savings. The contractor agreed that he would take the $1,500 from Mr. Carpenter, and that would be enough to buy at least the components that go in the ground. Then he would make arrangements with Mr. Carpenter to pay payments on the labor. My contractor said, anytime, Jackie, I'll go out there anytime and we'll get it and stuff. So the contractor received 1 phone call from the gentleman, and then numerous phone calls were made from the contractor to Mr. Carpenter. The contractor came in Monday and said that he had tried to call him after a discussion with the commissioner, and he did not get a return phone call. I believe that time's up. I am over this one. I'm sorry that it's gone on this long, but I also agree that it's hard to kick someone when they're down. And if you can work with someone, I think that's our best bet, because we are in a small town, and like you said, everybody becomes human, because we know them. But when you go out of your way, and this was above and beyond the scope of my job, and I knew I had a contractor that would do this, I have reached my limit. And so I believe that this one needs a cease and desist as soon as possible.
Board's pleasure.
If I may, I've been involved with this from the beginning. Mr. Carpenter has led us on a long trail of promises and never complied with any of them. The neighbors have been complaining of odor from porta potties and other issues. I think we have done, and I commend you for trying very hard to help a gentleman who was down on his luck. But we have statutes and laws that must be followed. I move that we order an immediate cease and desist to the residents, lock it off until or at such time that he comes back in compliance, that no one may inhabit his home.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to move forward with the cease and desist order on Mr. Carpenter's property located on what county road?
Ferris Drive.
Ferris Drive, thank you. Further discussion?
Can I-
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So once the cease and desist is issued, then how long until the injunction has to take place? Because that will be the next step. Don't kid yourselves. And I'm not, because not only does Jackie have experience and knowledge, so does my office. So understand that is the next process that will have to take place.
And I believe we're prepared to move forward. I mean,
In too long.
I'm just wondering what the timing is all. Or is there a set timing?
No, not necessarily, but what we need to do is give them 72 hours notice that we're gonna,
Sure.
secure the property, that nobody can go in there for any reason, so he needs to get out whatever he needs to get out.
Yeah, he's got to have time to do that.
give him just a little bit of time to do that. But then we need to secure it so that we'll know if he's going back in. And I think we have somebody there who's keeping an eye on him. Certainly he's going to let you know. But I could get a legal action filed as long as I have the direction from this board to initiate legal action if necessary. I can file for the injunction.
Okay, the sitting board, the current board, had a meeting with Mr. Carpenter on November the 30th. We gave him until June 30th to rectify the situation, and certainly it's drug on from there, so I have no problem supporting this cease and desist order. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ms. Jackie, would you work with Attorney Smith and move forward with that?
Just let him know when she gets over to others to step out. And we'll see what else. You know, as soon as you know that he's violated.
That won't affect Mr. Robinson, will it, Jackie?
No,
Because that's just an adjacent property, right?
correct.
I wonder if you have anything else, Mrs. Hobby?
Okay, number
Yes.
5.
Yes, the answer to that would be yes.
Okay. This is someone that I have a problem saying their names.
Pinatilio or something.
Would you like me to do it?
Yes. Penatelia?
Pinatilio.
Jessica Pinatiello and Colin McNutt. Colin.
Okay, so let's start with this one, and I don't believe, did you guys get the timeline on this one? Okay,
Get it, you want to see.
it started in 2015, where they received a letter from me stating that they couldn't be on this property without a septic system. And that never seemed to get any satisfaction. So on February 5th, a letter to the property owners from our county attorney. Then the letter was served on February 17th from the sheriff's department to this property. Then they said they were living with friends.
What was the letter that was served? What did that state? Was it
That they needed a zoning
to get a permit or what?
septic permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, and it should be in your packet too. It doesn't have no letterhead on it.
Oh, okay.
Small font. So now I have 2 neighbors that have come in and have voiced complaints, and their complaints was that there's 2 children on this property, that these people are actually living here, and they know that when I show up, not to show their faces, and they're hiding from me, and the whole neighborhood knows that, which is fine, I don't care. And they have 2 children, 2 small children live in this trailer. It's a pull-behind trailer, and they've added on to it. A deputy and I drove by yesterday, and I took pictures. There's no septic system.
Looking at your timeline, showing that November 2015 was when he was first notified that he needed a septic
Centennial
system.
Range.
It is now the end of October 2018. 3 years later, no activity has been done.
No, and actually what had happened is that when I do make contact, they say that they're living with a friend. I have a letter probably in your packet from him stating that. They're not living on the property. So,
Have you seen evidence that they in fact are living on the property?
yes, her and I had an encounter about 6 months ago. I was at the adjoining property, and she came over the hill with a shotgun. So, yeah, she's living there.
It's absolutely terrible.
I thought it was
But
a
I'm
walking
thinking of the Beverly Hills.
Not the walking stick.
What's the address on that one, Mr. Robinson?
The address on this one.
That's Centennial Ranch.
Yes,
It looks like
It is
Centennial
Centennial.
Ranch.
3635 Gibbs Drive.
Oh, yeah.
What's your recommendation?
I think we need to do something. I think that,
Before Jackie gets shot.
He just carried a shot.
Well, same thing, to cease and desist order and seal the property, the trailer, so you can tell if anybody's violating.
Is that your
yes, because they added onto the trailer without permits. All this blue stuff out there, it's tarps and trash, and that's what the neighbors are complaining about.
I would move that we move forward with the order of cease and desist on the said property in Centennial Ranch.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to move forward with the orders of cease and desist. The address again, Ms. Holly, if you would. 33, 36,
3635 Gibbs Drive.
36,
Do you have a lot number on that?
Yes, I do. Lot 152.
Thank you.
Is that a 40 acre, 30 acre, whatever it is?
35 south there.
Located at 3635 Gibbs Drive, lot 152. Is there a second?
It was.
Yeah, Bill
I did.
Oh,
seconded
Bill
it.
seconded, sorry, I didn't hear you. Further discussion, gentlemen?
I hate to be a bad guy, but I mean, these folks need to comply.
This is
And it's a
ridiculous.
sanitary issue, that's why the law's
I've
there.
been stating these for a while.
I desperately want to pass these pictures around. We're looking at it. I mean, we just have to get this county under control. We do not have a rubbish ordinance. We do not have a trash ordinance. So that leaves us to deal with these on an individual basis.
Which is
for
good.
Cease and desist orders. I
Gotta
mean,
do
it's
it.
just a travesty.
We have to do it.
Well, this is a health issue.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Move forward with cease and desist order on 3635 Gibbs Drive, lot 152. Mrs. Hobby,
It's a wealth of
do you have
happy
anything else?
information.
I'll say.
Yes.
A font of.
We're at the end. I was hoping that you have read the letter from the Planning Commission Chairman. And the Planning Commission Chairman recommended Mike Shields as a replacement for Chris Nordyke.
Do you agree?
Yes, he would agree with the appointment.
I just want to make sure that we're following procedure that's been established, that the person who's been in the longest as the adjunct is moving up. Is that correct? Follow
Correct.
procedure?
Yes,
I'll move that we appoint
Mike Shields.
Mike Shields as the new planning and zoning.
Seated.
I'll second. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's planning and zoning, correct? Or planning.
It's Planning Commission.
Thank you.
PC
Been moved
meetings.
and seconded, if I may, sir, to appoint Mike Shields on the Planning Commission. You had said planning and zoning.
Thank you, I appreciate you fixing that.
Second.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint, yeah, I guess that's correct, I'm sorry.
So,
I'm hung up on planning and zoning. To appoint Mr. Shields on the Planning Commission. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried.
we give all our members that are seated a certificate. And so, would you please sign the certificate for Chris Nordyke?
If you thank Chris
As an outgoing member.
as on the committee, commissioners, you continue to serve.
Mrs. Hobby, once again, I'm compelled to ask, is there anything else?
Yes. Okay, so if you look at the second page of my report, it's an FYI. It's,
Give us a minute, please.
The second page of your report?
Now, I'm dying on that whole
I
statement.
gotta go back to that.
You just thought you were done.
I thought I was done. Oh yeah, there is an FYI. He's got about 8 more guys.
okay, so the FYI is, they have numbers. Those numbers are scheduled numbers that come on your taxes. That's how they're filed in our file cabinets. I try to be good to you and write the number on the top of each letter. I give you a copy of all the letters that are going out of the office, so that way you'll know why your food's spit in. When you go to a restaurant.
Oh, dude.
Killing me.
Jackie. So some of these letters are, well, all of them are nasty grams. So I just want you to know that if someone calls you, you probably have a letter reflecting of what their violation is. If they have cleaned up and did what they were supposed to do, I put taken care of behind it. As you notice, I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 letters that have gone out and no one has reacted yet.
Okay.
Karen and John's son has pulled their glamping for a special use permit. Let me explain that one. You can, by the state of Colorado, run an Airbnb. There is probably in Custer County 70 of them. Other people call them short-time rentals. A lot of people do them. I've been trying to find some regulations on them. State by state has a little bit other regulations. The state of Colorado, if you've noticed, we've been El Paso County right now is trying to deal with it. And if you run an Airbnb, you can actually rent a room out of your house too. So we do not have any regulations against an Airbnb. So Karen can have this as it is right now, this glamping tents, 2 of them, under Airbnb. But she cannot add on any more tents under their regulations, glamping tents. That's how come Karen wanted to get an SUP, so that she could add more glamping tents. During the presentation, they decided that she decided that it was very unfavorable and that she would go ahead and pull it. I am a little disappointed because if she would have got a special use permit, the county could have controlled it a little bit better. But now, since we don't have any regs to control it, I'm not involved. Just wanted
So
to
what do you
point
do
that
to
out.
control it? What's the glamping's glamorous camping, or what is
Yes.
it? They get to
It's
be
just-
catered to, or what?
Yeah, it's just glamorous. You get a bed instead of a
Sleeping bag on the ground.
sleeping bag on the ground. You have walls and you have heat.
With the law, I don't see where we're.
No, that's true. That's why she pulled it, because she didn't want to deal with the county regulations. I've spoken to a county commissioner in Gilpin County. They have 2,500 short-term rentals in their county. It's killing their rental market. The affordable housing thing has just gone down the drain. They are struggling to try to come up with some regulations, some kind of oversight on this industry. I mean, it's just, we're not, I don't think, going to be as susceptible to that kind of pressure as some of those counties along the I-70 corridor, but it's out of control up there. They're just pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to deal with it. We will have to deal with it eventually on some level, I believe, so I think we should at least start doing a little research, and I'm not necessarily against the Airbnb thing, but and again, Airbnb is a trademark name for a property rental business across the United States. There's HomeAway, there's some others as well, but it's kind of become a generic term, so yes, ma'am.
The state of Colorado is either looking at or has passed what, that Airbnbs are now commercial and will have to pay commercial taxes. But how does that, if that passes, how does that affect, if it's now a commercial property, do they need a special use permit?
Yes.
Well, that will, in and of itself, if Colorado does that, not that I'm in favor of it necessarily, but that will change everything.
Yes. Yeah, I just think it's a matter of time until,
That's why we'll just hang off and
See what happens.
Gilpin and El Paso County does, but since we do land use and zoning, anything commercial you need to get a SUP for. The thing is that I've been watching the news, and up in El Paso County, I can rent my house and I'm only paying 7%, and then the motels are paying 27% commercial. So there's a little bit of angst going on, which I can see. But it is an income for a lot of people.
Let it be
yeah, and I
passed.
think it's going to affect our available housing market as well. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, my concern too is on the Airbnb in regards to paying the lodging tax that all the people that have lodging have
Well,
to pay.
that Airbnb site, they actually charge the lodging tax, so they are paying the lodging tax.
So my concern is, are people saying they're Airbnb and not really going through the Airbnb? See what I'm saying? And they're not really paying. So I guess the validity of them actually being under the official Airbnb.
And that's the thing too, because I pick up a couple of them and then I go over and I say to Kelly, hey, these are 2 Airbnbs. She can't tell me that they're
Right.
paying the lodging tax, not,
comes from the
but at
state.
least it's on her radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sat
Yeah, I
in,
heard to keep
I
track
think
of it.
Commissioner Kanda and I both sat in, maybe I was at that one by myself, a workshop at the CCI Winter Convention, and
Oh,
this
we
was
did.
a big topic, and I asked, where is the accountability, and the presenters said basically it's neighbors telling on neighbors. Somebody sees you renting out your place, they call Jackie or us or whatever, and then there's no way to guarantee that if people are renting their property out for profit, that they're paying a 2% lodging tax that supports our tourism board. I just think we've got holes all over this whole industry in Custer County, and I think we're gonna have to get on top of it.
Well, they
Fairly
use
soon.
the roads and all that.
They
kind
want
of
the roads
jazz, too.
plowed, they're gonna want trash hauled off. I mean, that's what Gilpin County's
All the
finding,
services
man. They call
they
it
gotta
the
pay for.
4 Rs, and it's ugly. Roads, the septic,
How does an R fit?
water, yeah, I don't know. No, 4 Ps,
Well, and-
sorry, plowing, poop.
And your septic, your septics are sized for how many
Exactly.
bedrooms you have.
Yeah, and see, that's what Gilpin County's dealing with. They're renting these Airbnbs based on 3-bedroom home,
Get over it.
but they're putting 15 and 16 people in there on a weekend.
Well, and their tanks aren't rigged for commercial use.
So
They're
they want,
too small.
But see, that's what I think that is a little angst in Custer County, because I know that people were turned off about the glamping, and they were worried about fires and the use of the roads and the trash up in our mountains. But I don't think they understood that if they would have let the process, because there's a great process in place
Sure.
with a special use permit, that we have control.
Yeah.
Not for them going up in the mountains, but the trash,
Sure.
open burns and stuff like that, but now we don't. That's it.
I'd really like to get Mr. Sparr's take on the whole glamping thing, but we're gonna wait on it. Anything else, Mrs. Hobby?
No.
Good job, Jackie.
So I have a question
Yes.
for Ms. Hobby and for the board as well. So, Ms. Hobby, did you get an opportunity to read the email that we just received in regards to Lot 266 in Centennial Ranch, in which Mr. and Mrs. Sund are also associated with, and they're living out there without a septic? So I can't say that Mr. and Mrs. Sund are, but I received this from the HOA president, and you did as well. The property is owned by Carmen Hansmeyer from Thornton.
Your deputy and I went for a ride to that property, and you should see a report.
When did you go in with that?
Yesterday.
Okay. So you're on top of that?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that they're living on there without a septic?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then we ought to
Yes.
get on top of it. This whole kindness thing is wearing thin on the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, they're
I'm
getting
just
sick
we're
and tired of
19
it.
months into a 6-month SUP.
I think we've demonstrated this morning that we've had our fill.
No, I
They're not
agree.
gonna be used.
I know, for being too
We're gonna
nice.
do what we have to do.
Which may include finding somebody who's tougher to...
Can I ask two other, because it came up on this, so has the board, or Jackie, have you thought about a rubbish ordinance in the county? I'm not talking about setting a washer and dryer out there, but I mean, I'm talking day-to-day trash that's being stored and kept on properties throughout the entire county. And we're,
Well,
and I
this
hate
board
telling
is
people,
not.
I hate telling people what they can and can't do on their property, but I'm sorry when you've got one property owner and there's trash blowing onto theirs all the time because these folks are keeping day-to-day trash stacked up. There comes a point where it's incumbent upon, I believe, the county to protect those citizens.
Well, here's the deal. We tried a junk ordinance, and that was a disaster. I have a box, but we have never tried just a trash ordinance. But then that's when I think that we could tailor it, because what I'm seeing is household trash.
That's what I'm saying. Day-to-day.
And, but
Vehicles.
we've gone through the health department, and there's nothing the health department can do until that trash leaves your property and goes to someone else's property. But what the deal is.
What do they do then?
Pardon?
What is their authority then? What do
Then
they
then we can do something underneath the health code. Just like, and I know this is a broken record, but I'm still mad. I had worked 7 years on Pete Moran's property. I finally got the state of Colorado to do something. The tires. Because there is $10,000 worth of tires on that property. In one swift move, that went down the drain. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but that was 7 years of work, and now the state's not gonna do anything because they said that I got too much confusion going on that one piece of property. One man picked up the lien, the other man says he owns it. So that might be something that Clint and I are gonna have to go to court with, because that needs to be cleaned up. That's just a tire. If those tires catch on fire accidentally, we'd never get it out. It'd be 3 or 4 months. And then I have this picture I just showed you. I believe this trash is actually leaving the property, so I'd like Alyssa and a deputy to go with me, because that's my complaint on the property out in Centennial. The other property, I told them to contact, and they got a certified letter. It's going out today.
If you're on top of it, you'll let
Thank you.
us know.
If there are no objections, Chair would request about a 3-minute recess.
There you go, 3 minutes.
3 minutes at a time.
You've heard.
Board meeting will come back to order. Thank you. Gentlemen, any unfinished business comes to the board? Nor do I, Mr. Kanda?
No.
We'll move on to new business. We will allow public comment on any action items under the new business portion of the agenda. Our first item on our agenda is consideration of supporting a GOCO grant by the San Isabel Land Trust. Floor is yours, ladies. Welcome, Linda Poole, Kate Spinelli, on behalf of San Isabel Land Trust. Good morning. Come forward, please. How are you? Good.
Hi. Nice to meet
How are you
you.
doing, Kim?
Uh-oh, they got a billboard.
Yeah, that's a check made to the county.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. How are you?
Seen you since the
Where would you like us to stay?
Probably there's fine, yes.
Well, thank you for giving us time to talk with you about, do you want me to stand?
That's your choice. Whatever you're...
I'd rather.
Yeah.
Great. Sorry.
That's okay.
Feels a
No,
little
you're
bit
fine.
like a circus here.
That's all right.
I wanted to thank the commission for taking the time to consider our request to put in a grant proposal shared between the Custer County Board of Commissioners, the town of West Cliff, and San Isabel to do an enhancement on the Bluff Park. So just to remind people, the Bluff Park project has been going on for over a decade now. There have been at different points in time, no plans up to plans that would have cost over $2.5 million for extensive work on the park. And at this point in time, San Isabel is working through an MOU with the town of West Cliff. Our properties are basically towards the center. The town has a property here, and they have the parking lot area down here. When I started with San Isabel 3 months ago, one of the things that came to came up in the list of things to do was, even though there have been really great plans for this for quite a while, the funding hasn't been there, and there are issues. There are some weeds there. The trail that we really wanted to have be wheelchair accessible isn't. It's costing the town way more than they wanted it to do the irrigation because the soils are poor underneath where they put the turf in. We have some goals of having that property speak. For anyone who goes out there, we'd like that property to speak about how our community, our county, looks at taking care of the land and taking care of the community. And so we are launching a community effort to rethink how the land is managed. There's a GOCO mini park grant, and I just have 2 copies of this. It's a mini park grant that's available up to $60,000 projects, of which $45,000 can come from GOCO. It requires a $10,000 cash match and an additional amount of in-kind match to make up that $60,000 that the project can go to. And so what we are proposing, and we've talked with the town of West Cliff, and we together would be proposing this, is a project with the purpose of enhancing the environmental and scenic conditions of Bluff Park and its long-term educational and recreational value to Custer County youth, residents, and visitors. And so here's just a quick little fact sheet. That talks about the rough edges of what this type of a proposal could look like. The way we'd like to approach this is through having what we're calling an open park event. We've gathered up a stack of previous plans for the Bluff Park that's about this tall. And we hear daily about what some people would like to see happen with the park, but what we like to do is to refresh the conversation within the community, the town, the county, about what we'd like to have out here. So we would have an open park event, we would gather information on it. What we know right now is there are some low-hanging fruit that are going to need to be taken care of. So our grant proposal would cover the cost for having those meetings, engaging the county and the town to think about the long-term vision for the place. The low-hanging fruit is we need to do a vegetation plan that's cost-effective and meets San Isabel's mission, as well as our ideas about living in concert with a rural community that supports the rural community, takes good care of the land, and also welcomes visitors. So Denver Botanic Garden has a planning team, and they're familiar with the property. They've already given the town some idea about how to do the turf management. The town would like more information on that. And so part of the grant would cover paying Denver Botanic Garden to come down and do a vegetation plan for the entire 10 acres of the park. it would give us the money to do some of the no-brainer things, which would include resurfacing 1,700 feet of trails that run all around. I don't know, Kate, if you
Yep. So this is essentially Summit Park on the south end, the bank is over here. So we have this loop of trails that exist right now, this loop of trails that exist right now, and this trail that exists right now.
So the preliminary estimate on that, or the guess from the Denver Botanic Garden and with the chair of the Bluff Committee, is that we would want something like 3/4 inch minus road grade material, compacted and in sight, probably an average of 8 feet wide with a weed barrier underneath it, cut down the problems with weeds and snakes and erosion and all those problems. So money to work on the trails. We're probably going to end up wanting to do a compost application over the surface of the turf. It's too expensive to tear it up and start over again, just can't be done. But it's really water inefficient right now, and the town has been getting a reasonable price on their water, and Round Mountain is going to have to up that ante. And so the town is concerned about those costs. So we'll look at ways to reduce that through better soil amendments for the turf. We have wildflower areas with native plants. Yeah. And the idea with that is to be able to demonstrate the use of native plants, pollinator friendly, deer resistant, drought resistant. Yeah, everybody laughs. It's so I came out of the office last night and there were a dozen bucks right at the door. Like, I wonder if I have the right of way to
Deer resistance is a 10-foot fence.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is to work with the Denver Botanic Garden and then with the youth of Custer County. And Kate has already been talking with the school about an outdoor classroom, and develop a planting plan, a management plan, and engage youth in doing some of the work, and then being able to use that as a classroom as it goes forward. So those are the types of things that we're talking about doing. The low-hanging fruit is the planning, fixing the trail, getting the turf so it works better, and then being able to have the wildflower areas as a basis for the demonstration site, and also engaging youth. To do that, we're on a short timeline, and I got here late in the game, and so we are working with the town to get some acreages and their specific guidance on it. What they've told us is that they want this grant to include not just our property, but their property also, that they would be a partner in the grant. They have no money to contribute to it, but what they can do is we can use their maintenance fees as in-kind match. Yep. What?
I'm sorry. I know Westcliff is putting a bathroom in there, significant money being used as in-kind matching also.
Yes, it can, because it's a facility. Yeah. Yeah, the one issue is there's some specific wording that we're going to have to look into of the time of their expenditures versus the time that the grant is put out. So we'll have to check into that. But I think that their expenditures just on the maintenance of the lawn is going to be sufficient match.
What all lands incorporate Westcliff's piece of that they're asking us to? Not that part, but the inside Westcliff that he said that they wanted to have.
Oh, you want to show me? So the
park
property.
The
town.
parks that the town owns.
She just mentioned it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So basically, Summit Park, which is essentially this area on the south end, which is just to the north of the bank. This piece, and kind of the observatory is not on this, but the observatory sits kind of right here. So this part is Summit Park, which belongs to the town. And then these kind of two center parts where, if you're imagining the most grassy parts of the bluff, or flat and grassy lawns, those are San Isabel's 2 lots. And then the town owns this end, and the parking lot as well.
And that statement didn't mean others inside of Westcliff.
No, no,
Who owns the ground where the observatory sits?
the town.
Town of
That's
Westcliff?
That's part of Summit Park.
But if I can mention, my understanding that regardless who owns it, it's all under the conservation easement. So,
So the two center parcels that belong to San Isabel are under conservation easement, and that easement is held by Colorado Open Lands. But the entire park, the 10.5 acres that include the town's land and San Isabel's land, are managed together as the Bluff Park.
Under an MOU. So the easement just covers San Isabel's property, but we manage it together under an MOU.
Yep.
And so in order to make, oh, did you have another question?
I want to know how much money you need.
I don't need money from you.
I love it.
Why are you here?
The reason I,
Sorry.
That's the first thing to say. Hi, I don't want any money from her.
that's right, that's right.
That's never heard.
Yeah, maybe I
that was
should
gonna
know
be
while I saw the yes. That's right.
Yeah, the jazz festival located. After the jazz festival is done, and a lot of, I think there was like the car rally and stuff like that. What does the grass look like when you're done with that? Do you know, wouldn't it be better in the long term because of not putting grass, since the traffic is unbelievable during the jazz festival and stuff like that, the maintenance of replacing that grass, and then also when we were in a drought, Colorado Springs had to stop watering their parks, plus all their trees died. So I'm a little concerned with all the trees that you do have there, and why you wouldn't start sectioning and just start doing xeriscape and get rid of that grass.
It's a really good point. And water conservation is kind of the center. It's one of the main topics around why we want to do some of this work. So I think part of it, part of the reason that this grass has been so heavily water consumptive over time is, like Linda mentioned, because there's not really soil underneath it. There's kind of gravel underneath it. And so the soil amendment and adding compost and adding soil that will work its way down through the grass will make it so that the grass doesn't require nearly as much water in the future.
Okay, but then you have events that happen on the grass.
Yeah,
And I know after one family picnic, my grass is total.
exactly.
And so what I'm saying is this is, if you put the figures on paper, where I know that you got all that grass,
Yeah.
but actually you could get a roller in there and roll up that grass, and you'd be amazed at how many people would probably buy the rolls of grass that might help in xeriscaping this. I'm just concerned that the water consumption is just gonna keep going up and up and up.
I completely understand. Yeah. And part of the original plan for the bluff was that we would have this kind of open lawn area that people use, and people use it really regularly. There are people out there with their dogs and their kids using that lawn area. But what we want to do is make it so it doesn't require nearly as much irrigation, and so that there's less of it. So over time, what we wanted to do is expand the native vegetation areas that essentially require no water. They require a little water the first year to get the seeds set, but then they require very little water. And so I think that having that patch of grass that we make more efficient by having a better sponge underneath it, so rain holds better, so we don't need to use as much water, was the goal. But then xeriscaping with anything else, xeriscaping was going to be a huge part of what the Denver Botanic Gardens was going to plan for us.
That'll be great.
Yeah, so because if everything along the rock wall here, down on the west side, all those plants, all of that needs to be drought tolerant, and everything, and including the little planted area that we have here, and anywhere else that we put plantings. We have some that are right in here. Water is really kind of the top priority. So
In the interest of time, let's allow you to finish up your presentation, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so what we are here to ask is that the GOCO grants have to be submitted by a municipality. And the town of Westcliff is already putting in a grant proposal to work on the tennis courts. And they would like to see this one go through, and we've already heard that one won't compete with the other, so we're not, running up against each other. And so our alternative for that would be to have the county be the person who does the grant proposal. To be able to do that, you would need to commit to, you'd need a resolution, and they have draft paperwork on this GOCO website that I just tried to fill in the words. So this has not been reviewed by San Isabel's attorney. I'm just giving it to you so that you could look at the rough idea of what it looks like, but it would require a resolution. And there's 5 copies there. So we'll get one too. And the other thing it would require is an intergovernmental agreement between the different parties, so San Isabel, the county, and the town, to talk about what the specific roles are.
Yeah, I'm just worried. I hear you're not asking for any money or a matching amount of money apparently from us, or are you?
Well, we have to have an in-kind from you for you to be part of it.
What do you propose that is?
I would propose that your agreement to do this and oversight simply being that you have to handle the paperwork that comes, you have to sign the paperwork, you have to submit it. And then what I would like to propose, because your name is on the list along with ours, is that you develop some level of interaction that you want to have with San Isabel and Westcliff on this to feel comfortable with it, that you document the number of hours that it'll take, we put it into the agreement, and that's your in-kind.
Well, in some cases too, what's the after effect? What are we responsible? Are we going to sign up to help and maintain things? Are we going to sign up for paying for water? Are we going to sign up for what?
Terrific questions. And if you read through here, the proposal, what it says is that San Isabel and Westcliff together are responsible for that, as we always have been. San Isabel would draft the proposal, would bring it to you. We would all need to
So you're responsible for all maintenance and development, blah, blah, blah.
Right, and for tracking and performing underneath the grant, and you would just have oversight, whatever level of oversight you want to have. You want to come check once a month? Do you want to check once a year? It's a 2-year grant proposal. You decide. You set aside how much time that's going to be. You set a dollar value for your participation, and that is your in-kind match. And really, the only reason it has to be there is because GOCO requires that there be skin in the game for everybody whose name is on there. But it specifically says that San Isabel and the town will convey to you as the person who is the sponsoring agent. Thank you. I lose words. You would be able to look at the property at any point you want, and that's the only new thing that you get out of this, is that you can come and do oversight. And the only thing that you take on is the agreement to be the sponsoring agent and whatever you commit to in the in-kind, and it's minimal.
Who holds the funds and who disperses the funds?
I would propose
The grant
that we would.
San Isabel.
So you do the-
Land Trust is the financial agent.
Yeah, I would propose that we were.
You execute.
Is that possible if we're the applicant for you to handle the funds? Because usually with these kind of grants, the applicant is the financial.
I'll have to talk, there's Madison Brannigan is the person who handles this for GOCO, and so I scheduled a phone call with her after this for answering the specifics.
So you said you're under a timeline. What is the timeline?
The timeline is this needs to be submitted, signed and submitted with only draft, not signed resolutions and the agreements. You only have to have a draft of them by 5 o'clock on November the 1st. November the 1st. So we have a week.
If I can comment, I've been very involved with this with the town of West Cliff. The relationship between the town of West Cliff and the San Isabel Land Trust has been an excellent one. I think we recognize the value to our entire community to have the bluff. Appreciate these ladies and anybody else who puts their time and effort into keeping this value line set up and running. I'm not real thrilled about getting you sprung on me with, you want an answer right now, and I'm not really, I'd like to read it. I understand exactly where you're going with it, but I'd like to read it, and if we postponed it to October 31st, the OCC meeting we voted at that time, that would still give you sufficient time to get this done?
It would, and what it would give me sufficient time to do is to have the entire grant proposal all fleshed out, pre-agreed by Westcliff that they're okay just for your approval.
Perfect.
And then that's
If I can, Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest we put this on the October 31st meeting, give us a chance to review this, get in touch with San Isabel Land Trust if we have any questions, certainly confer with Westcliff and see how they feel about it, and bring it up at that point.
You know, only concern I'd have, Jay, we don't have a lot of time, but Section 3 kind of bothers me. It's we authorize the expenditures of any funds to meet the terms. So there's issues that we have to get around. You know, it's one thing to say we don't have to do anything, but we get to go and tell you what to do later. That's what it sounded like. We're in charge of something, but what are you obligated to do with us telling you we don't like something or another? But we're not putting any money into it. All you're using is our name, the county, I should say. So it's just we need to give it some thought, just like you say. It's awful tight.
Being the sponsoring agent for beneficial organizations. So the concept is, you know, it's something we've done before, but truly I'd like to read it and digest a little bit, but if we get done within your timeline, I think that would be.
I just feel like I think that we will have to be the fiscal agent.
Let's find out.
Which-
I think the point's very well
Yeah.
taken.
So,
And if it
yeah, as soon as you know.
could be our contribution, it goes through our treasurer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that big a deal. We do it for others too. We do it for the Custer County Kids Club and some of the others. And we're the fiscal agent, financial agent. So it's a doable thing if it's felt that this is a worthwhile project.
Well, and I think it needs to be said here, your agenda item was consideration of support. Not really accurate. I mean, we will be applying for this grant. The county will be. So this is not a request of support. This is a request of the county to apply for a $40,000 grant.
And those might be my words, so.
Pardon?
Those might be my words, not her words, so.
About the administration.
It's how she put it on
Consideration of
her agenda.
I'm following you. Yeah, I just think we need to cut through all the chaff and say, get to the point that you're really requesting the county to apply for a $40,000 grant from GOGO.
right.
Okay.
And the bottom line is,
We're not ready.
We'll decide there'll be no financial expenditures to us. Quick.
And the matching portion of this, you said was 10,000?
$10,000 cash match is
Match.
required, and that will come from San Isabel. And it will probably be, that part of the money will probably go towards paying a part-time seasonal person to be out there on the ground, because we just have not, we don't, when we took the park on, we did not have that in the type of things that we did, and we haven't done the fundraising for it, but we got the tax credit back from the sale of the tax credit, and that is to go towards the long-term management of the park, and so we have some money to do together.
And I'll concur with you. Multiple times recently, the Westcliff Town Board has discussed the expense of maintenance because of the things you're talking about, and it just hasn't been maintained as well as it potentially could have been. I'm not catching any disturbance on anybody, but a grant to get it back up and running to a good, healthy status in the long run will save money, I believe. So,
Yeah, my initial perception is this is really on the town of Westcliff. The county has no business doing this. However, your point about the town of West Cliff already being involved in applying for a grant to GOCO, I understand that, and I believe that's a legitimate point. Yes, sir?
Something just for your consideration as well as you start, when we talk about maintenance, so I don't know if it would be the county or it could help the town or what percent as well, but I don't think any of us would underscore the importance of the block and the value that it adds to the community. We have a lot of folks that come through the court system that have to serve useful public service. And we are constantly having to try to find things for them to do. Now, that's not a steady stream that you can count on X amount of hours per week, but it certainly peaks in the summer and then falls off this time of year. But I would certainly encourage you, and again, I don't know if those, if that in-kind match would ultimately come from the county or from the town of West Cliff, but those folks are there, and I would love, and I'm sure the folks in the community would love to see those folks that have been sentenced to that out.
Find a green uniform,
Working
get
on
rid of your
that.
orange.
And they can do that under the if you have a part-time maintenance person, or that, somebody from the town of West Cliff is out there kind of supervising and making sure, giving them direction.
You got a zoning issue with this, Jackie?
I'm sorry?
She was looking at like she had a zoning issue.
No, I was just wondering, have you tried Heather, like the other municipality, the town of Silver Cliff, to run that through the town of Silver Cliff, because since they're another municipality?
Yeah.
Well,
And we're a county?
yeah, we thought about that, but it's not in Silver Cliff, it's in West Cliff.
It's not in the county. It's in the town.
But the
Sort of
town
counts.
is in the county.
We told her not to be nice.
Chair would entertain a motion to postpone until October 31st.
I move that we postpone the decision on whether to agree to be the sponsoring agent for the Love GOCO grant until the October 31st meeting.
Do you have to send it in on what date?
I will
November
second.
the 1st.
I will second the motion.
I'm sorry. Okay, so November the 1st, so that's the day after we meet.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone action
Doesn't seem
on
like time.
the Senate or the GOCO grant until October 31st. Further discussion pertaining to the motion. Yes, sir.
Just one thing, can I ask Ms. Brenda, would you mind verifying with our friends on how the financial aspect of it would go?
Yeah, if you said you have a phone
Brandy.
call, yeah, so yeah, just let me know.
Brandon should be able to answer that, I would think.
Yeah, and it would be really helpful to us as we're developing this. I was trying to make the load as light as possible on Custer County, because clearly you have a lot going on that keeps you very busy. But
You're not going
we
to put a
would-
porta potty on that part.
Don't worry. The meanest I was when I said, did you try Silver Club? You didn't have a porta potty. Well, I think,
Tom, on that resolution, what, to what end? What do we get? We're going to resolve, we're going to postpone it, and then,
We'll have this discussion again on the 31st.
We should have a resolution ready on the 31st
Right,
if
we ought to have
that's
paperwork ready to sign if
Got
if
a
it is
draft.
approved.
Right, so do we need to work with your attorney?
yes.
Okay, that's okay. And the other thing we'd like to do, that we would welcome any amount of involvement the county would like to have. I was just trying to make it as light as possible. Yeah, maintenance for all of us.
Yeah, one of the concerns we have to consider is easy for us to sit here and drop the gavel on a GOCO grant. Right there's a person who's probably going to fall on her desk. I doubt the three of us are going to sit and write that entire grant.
No,
And
they
I
haven't
know,
written, I'm not.
yeah, and I know in this instance you will probably provide all that, but that's something else we got to take into consideration as well. It's not we just vote on it and let somebody else do it. Well, that somebody else is generally going to fall on Brady's desk in
So-
these kind of situations.
So that's a good point. Did San Isabel write a grant before?
Oh, yes.
And, right, and so you've got that as a template. You know what you're going after here.
We've done multiple
And
grants.
so Brenda can verify that.
We'll be doing the grant writing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
probably the extent of my work would be maybe
Fiscal.
the reimbursement requests and the paperwork, to follow up if we are the fiscal agent.
So in that process, do we have to show the in-kind, like Shannon suggested? The prisoner thing's pretty cool, but there's other things too.
Well, what I would propose, usually the person who writes the grant does the administration for it, and so the usual way to do it is we would gather all that information up, submit it to Brenda as the fiscal agent. She goes through and she just makes sure that everything is copacetic and signs the check.
Okay, so we need to vote on postponing on it.
That's correct. Motion to further debate, gentlemen, on postpone. Public comment pertaining to the motion to postpone. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Postpone this and request Ms. Brenda to put it on the agenda October 31st.
Since we're going through the motions.
I understand. I
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it.
It. Thank you for coming down.
Always put the agenda and get before me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You too, thank you. Sorry I missed the week meeting yesterday.
Very nice
We had a board meeting.
presentation.
That's what I
You did a
heard.
good job.
Well, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is appointment for the Tourism Board. Miss Angie, welcome. Thank you, Dan. Good morning.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
You're back for more.
I'm here in regards to, I put in another person on the tourism board, which would make 5. That would be Peggy Collins. The history with Peggy was she did apply originally, then she pulled back, and I did send a letter to her asking that, we would work, if she just wouldn't come to the meetings or whatever, and really never got any more response from her until, I guess, Bill had called and talked, and then he called and talked to me and a couple other people and talked to her. So she finally did get the information that was needed to us, and we did consider her for appointment for the board. Since then, what I found out just after our board meeting is in 30 days, she's going to have to submit another letter because her term is actually out the end of this 2019.
2018.
Or 2018, well, officially
January
January 2019. So, and she's going to be going out of the country. So, I don't know if we should just wait and just hold the letter that she's got now and then put that for January of 2019. And then she would have 3 years after that instead of just, maybe 2 months, and then in, like saying 30 days, she has to redo another letter. So we got enough to vote. She's been coming. I also would like to do an apology. I didn't realize until Brenda let me know that she sent a letter questioning something that in regards to the bylaws. And I had been working on the bylaws. She offered to help, so I'm delegating. So that kind of thought that I didn't feel that that was appropriate for her to do. It needed to come before the board. It was at a board meeting that we delegated that. So that's not a good way to start out things but there either.
It's actually worse than that. You may not know. She also questioned Brenda, who notified us that she questioned the veracity of your board, the tourism board, in what was being requested. I was concerned. I felt the appropriate way for us to come back to your board and say, is this a true statement? The question was, in the bylaws, it said that the commissioners requested something. She questioned that, but not with you. She questioned that with Brenda.
Right.
That and the bylaws typographical error, that was an issue. And I was a major, I still probably am, a supporter of Peggy. I feel that she can bring a lot. My concern to my fellow commissioners is, are we putting a person on with the same kind of personality that created the type of issues that we had with the prior board? And I speak my mind, so if I'm offending anybody, I apologize, but I need to put this out there.
But that's really where my gut is. We've already got another one on there that basically when I question something in her researching something, she didn't work with the board. She basically, her email said that she's a citizen, she could do what she wanted to when she wanted to. And that's that. So therefore...
How about this, just a suggestion, and I'm not going to tell your board what to do. I'm just going to throw it. Since she's up in a couple of months, what if we appoint her at this point, see how it goes until it's time to reappoint her? If things calm down and she gets a better understanding of how the board's operating, because it could just be, it's simply just be not an understanding of the proper procedures to follow. And that's certainly a possibility. And if that's the case, then let's move forward in January. And if it's not the case, and it continues to be a problem, then we could address it at that
Having
time.
had past experience, I think your concern is valid. So, but that's not saying, I mean, she could be ex officio. She still can come to the meetings and be part of, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, what's your proposal today?
Yeah,
What's your recommendation?
you're here to ask us what?
Okay, I guess the board's recommendation, and I guess that's what I have to go by, is that, for, to come before you in consideration of Peggy as board member.
Okay,
The board did not know of her having to reapply.
So that term would end January 1, 2019.
Yes, sir.
So it's 2.5 months or whatever.
I know.
Okay, all
And
right.
in the past, like with Charlie, we had to come back more than one time
that's okay.
and everything, so.
It's a
We
pleasure.
understand.
I move we accept the nomination of Peggy as a board member on the tourism board for her to fill out this term and then work the normal process to reappoint.
I'll second the motion. We moved and seconded to appoint Peggy Collins to the tourism board to fill out the term expiring January of 19. Discussion.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
This recommendation came to us this morning without the board having knowledge of certain facts that you just mentioned.
Okay.
My feeling is we ought to postpone this until October 31st or November 1st or 2nd and see if the board after Ms. Adeber, is that pronounced
Artberg.
I'm sorry. Ms. Adeber relays to the board all the additional information and see if that is still a recommendation.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion to postpone it.
Good. You're certainly welcome to make that motion. I feel a little different about it, with all due respect. If this is a recommendation from the board, it's a 2.5 month appointment. I'm prepared to move forward with it, but you certainly have the right to
I'm in the same boat.
postpone if you care to.
And Mr. Winwood, at the time when the board did do this, we did realize it was just for 2.5 months. So,
Further discussion?
No, I mean, I don't have any major issues with it. I mean, it's just for a short period of time. And then
That's right.
let
This
it
is
come
a
back.
3-year appointment. I'm in a different place.
Thank you.
We got time to learn and they got time to get together.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement.
I think
I'm
this
just
is-
voicing, and I hate to say negative things like this, but
Exactly.
I was very concerned about those things. In fact, I sent an email to my fellow commissioners with my concern. With my concern because of the personality problems we previously had in this board. I just don't want to go down the same path. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I just overarching comment, I guess, myself. I don't know how this has been handled in the past. I get a general sense that commissioners rubber stamped a lot of recommendations that came to them. I don't know that, I just get that general feeling. I don't believe this board is going to function that way. I think we're going to look at every recommendation earnestly, and I know Commissioner Ganda has voiced his opinion. I happen to agree with it, that if there are people that we do not feel fall in line with how we feel this county needs to be portrayed, how we need to operate, then we're going to probably have a say-so about that. But in this case, I think Ms. Collins has indicated desire to be on there. Your board's recommended her. I think it's prudent to move forward. Further discussion?
No.
Public comment pertaining to approving Ms. Collins on the tourism board. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. So approved.
I have just a question. Brenda, can you forward over, or I don't know it all, Peggy, email in regards to tourism board?
Yeah, it was just like the one thing about the statutes,
Okay.
that the
The
reference
bylaws.
number was of the statute was incorrect, and then the thing about the bylaws.
And
That's it.
it's probably just not understanding what the
Just a
procedure
question.
is, or what the protocol is, so, I mean, that's something the board ought to be able to answer.
Anybody here
Right,
from the
right.
library?
And then procedure on having a meeting, like tourism board meeting, in the county building at like 4 o'clock in the evening. What do we need to do?
The
Okay.
best way to do that is, if you set up a regular meeting, what's the
we
plan to
already
make
did
sure that
this.
time's available, and she can block out at every.
Well, if it's after
It's
hours.
after hours. See, that's
After
what,
hours?
yeah, it's at 4,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I'm gonna defer to you. We don't do.
Because I live there?
Yeah. No, I mean, you have experience with people meeting there outside of hours. I mean, I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
it.
what day, so it starts at 4?
It starts 4. Usually we have it elsewhere, but we geared that back so it'll be at the county building.
What about the annex?
That's fine, I just didn't know. So I'll just,
We'll work through that.
okay.
And one quick question. You're serving as the interim chairman of the tourism board.
Yes, sir.
And your term expires January of
Yes, sir.
19 as well. When do you anticipate the board electing officers? In January?
That's
You're
procedure
assuming
is
you'll
gonna be.
continue to serve
Yes, sir.
until the end of your term?
Yes, sir, until the end of my term, and I will be notified.
Well, thank you for your work. I know the transition period's been awkward, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Hey, thank you. I just want to kind of be straight up
Yep,
Thanks.
what I thought.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Whitmore Library. Miss Nan. Good morning. How are you?
Thanks for your patience.
I have to be honest with you about something. I saw all them youngsters marching in there, and I thought, boy, Nan has pulled out all the stops.
Got a coup going.
Bringing the kids in here.
I wish.
Yes, ma'am. What can we do for
First
you?
of all, I want to thank you for the $4,750 that we were awarded on the 12th. I was, I know you were doing budgets all that week. You were trying to get a whole lot run pretty quickly. And you did it. It was great. We all got to go home. But I felt a little bit, all I want to do is talk to you for a few minutes because I feel like there's something following the library that we need to get cleared up right now.
Okay.
I've been in the library for 17 years, and I come to commissioner meetings so that I understand what's going on in the county, but I've never had to come before them. Like, I've sat in this chair a lot, and this has never happened. Usually commissioners just come in and say, how's the library going? So for the Conservation Trust Fund, we asked for $6,000, and Commissioner Candace said, why are you asking for double? And then it was evident that I couldn't say anything because we were trying to move through, and that worked great. But I was riding my bike that afternoon, and I thought, why do I have to keep coming before this board? Not that I don't,
It's
not
August,
that it's a problem, I do have a life. So I was thinking back, and I thought, I just wanted to give you a little history lesson because you are relatively newer. And so the library, we work on approximately $10,000 a year for the last 8 or 9 years. We've built up over the years. I think we have a very important place in the community. I feel like we're the hub of the community. Approximately 4,000 is from the Spirit Campaign and fundraisers, which we are about to have again. And approximately, and it changes a little bit, approximately 6,000 from the Conservation Trust monies. This is just for the last few years.
Thanks.
So when Commissioner Canada said, why are you asking for double, I realized he doesn't know the past. The past is that I was not asking for double. But that money covers everything, including our salary, my salary. I'm part-time. I'd say over half my hours are voluntary. I have incredible volunteers. That is how the library started, from people just in the community wanting to have a library and people donating. And so I know we're a real different kind of library. We're the smallest library in Colorado. But we are part of the Colorado library system. I do go to all the library stuff. We do have, there are people from the library, state library, that come in and check on us. We do get some funds from them simply for things that are materials that are checked out, not for anything else. In order to get those funds, we have to use $1,500 of our money first. So what I kind of traced back to the beginning of this. I have to regress a little bit to get some history here. The community board, we met for several years. We had a county commissioner come to us and say, what do you think about redoing this building? And we were in shock because we had never had anyone come to us, a commissioner come to us to want to help this building for restoration. We actually found out before they could do restoration, we had to get a quit deed from RE2 to begin on this building. This building didn't even belong to Custer County. And so before we could actually start doing anything, we had to get a quit deed from RE2. Am I saying that right?
Quit.
A quit deed. Now, through the Conservation Trust Fund monies, for a number of years, they have been giving the board $6,000, and we would do one project a year. One year we did new windows, one year we did new floors, but because of these little things that we would do every year and making sure that the grounds were mowed, so with $6,000 a year, this building has been kept in good enough shape where last year you could come in and do this amazing remodel building, and I am still in awe of what has been done, and I'm very thankful for it. And of course we have in-kind. Except for the very highest ceilings in two parts of this, the citizens painted this whole building. Alden was one of the main painters. My husband was another. So we had put in a great deal of work for this. So, but I felt that the last commissioners were very upset with the amount of money that the actual county had to put into this, although most of the money came from grants. So last year when we were given, I asked for 6,000, we were given 3, and so, but I had on my agenda of the board of the library that we really wanted to do the Aspen Cat. So when I came before the board to ask for another 3, you granted it, and you guys also looked up. You found out that all the nonprofits had been given exactly what they had been asked, except the library had been cut in half because the last commissioners felt too much money had been put into Wetmore. And so they, for some reason, they chose to cut the library in half. The building, the community building board, we still got the full 6,000. And so I had to come back and ask for another 3, and I was granted it, and I was very thankful for that. But I guess I want you to know, we worked hard on that grant for years before anything happened. We did our in-kind. There are a lot of volunteers here who work hard on this building to keep everything up. This is the only public building in the community. So I guess I want the commissioners, the older commissioners, to get over the fact that they had to spend some money in Wetmore. And so because it was halved last year, it looked like I was asking for double, and I was not asking for double. I was trying to...
I should have asked you, why was it cut?
Right. But see, you didn't know
Well,
that.
I didn't know.
So I was realizing
Yes,
that
but-
all I'm trying to do is get you up on history.
Okay.
This is the history I wanted you to get up on. I want to let this rest so we can move on. I feel like I keep coming before because for some reason
We care.
The last commissioners felt that the way they could catch up on money is by halving the library's funds. But everyone else was given their full amount. And when you guys looked it up, there was actually $2,700 left in the fund. Okay, so all I want to do is say, this is the history. This is the history of what we've been given in the past. I was hoping everyone could understand and we could drop it and we could move on. And that's why I'm...
Okay. Yeah, obviously, and you alluded to the fact that we did vote to fund $3,000 more to the
Correct.
county.
Correct.
I'm assuming that was a gesture on our behalf that we believe in this library down here.
Okay.
Okay, I don't care what happened before I took office. I'm sorry. I can't be responsible for that. Jay can't be responsible for what happened in the old days. He can only be responsible for right now and his opinions. Sorry, I am speaking out of turn. But,
I am responsible for the prior.
well, yeah, but you can't do anything about that. That's been done, that's water over the bridge. I hope you, I sense that maybe you think we were kind of picking on the library when we did not give you your full request for the Conservation Trust Fund. Is that an accurate statement?
No.
Okay, all right, good.
I felt you didn't have the history that I have, because that's,
Okay.
I've been fighting for this, I've been working hard for this library for 17 years. And you guys have so much more on your plate. And so I'm just saying, all I want to do is give you this little history lesson. This is part of the history lesson. All I want to do is see my viewpoint, see where we're coming from, and we can move on.
Okay.
But I felt that this kind of had been following for the last year. And I just wanted to make it clear so we can move on.
Okay.
That's the only reason I'm here. And in the past, when I was hoping to speak out a little bit, you've been in a hurry, and I've understood it. It made perfect sense.
Now, in defense of that,
Okay.
you emailed us the document you were getting ready to read us word for word, correct?
Yes.
We had already read that. You were not the only one that was not allowed to put a plug in.
Oh,
for
I
your
understand.
Okay, all right.
And I understand
Okay.
we all got to leave early.
Yeah.
I understand why we had to kind of reshuffle the money. All that made perfect
Right.
sense to me.
Okay. Had we not received your document, I would have allowed you to read that. I
Yeah.
think that would have been fair.
Yeah.
But we had it in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why
No, I'm not having a problem with that.
All right.
But I realized when Commissioner Candace said, "Why are you doubling it?" I realized he doesn't understand. I'm not holding it against you. From what you know, that's what it looked like. But that's why I wanted to put that piece of paper in front of you, just to understand it more clearly. All I want to do is bring everyone up to date so we can move on, that's
So
all.
the 19 is going to be $4,750.
Correct.
Okay, so we're,
yeah, you got
It's a
2018
typo, you
on
got
there
18
and
twice.
Do you realize that?
That's because we were granted the 3,000, then I went back and asked for another 3,000.
Okay.
It came in
Yeah,
two
this
different,
was
It ends up being 6,000.
July
Huh?
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that came in two different blocks
Right, but
because
you-
of what happened.
You were allocated in 2018 $6,000 from Conservation Trust.
I don't know.
Correct?
Well, say that again.
yes, that's correct. The
The board
3,000.
received $6,000 from the Conservation Trust Fund in 2018.
Correct, but it came, I had to ask especially
Yep.
for the second
No
three.
problem, understood.
And so I was just, all I
is
was
all
doing is trying
18s,
to
you
bring
got
you
it
up to
twice.
date with
And then
going on, so-
19, she has whatever it is,
So it's
4-7.
4,750,
And
which
publicly, I'll
provided-
apologize. My comments were not, I didn't mean that you didn't have any control. I
Let
meant
me say the
water
prior
under the bridge.
commissioners, there were 3 of them, of which I was one
Right.
of them. I was a vote. I voted what we voted. I have said publicly that I felt $750,000 was a lot of money to spend in this community, of which $270,000, if I remember, it was between 250 and 270, came from the taxpayers. I think it's wonderful. I don't really have a major problem. It's a lot of money to put into a small community. If you live in this community, it's worth every single penny, and you deserve it. But in the scheme of Custer County, it's a lot of money. Okay, there's water under the bridge, I agree with you. If you remember, many times when I was a commissioner with the prior administration, I came in and said to contractors during the construction, not good enough, we will fund additional expenses to fix it. For example, the leaks down here, the restoration. I mean, I never tried to cut the project, but in my heart, I felt that's a lot of money to spend for a community center in a small community. And I voiced that, and I probably still feel that way, although please don't take that as a slight against Wetmore, because you deserve every bit of it. It's just allocation of funds. And that's exactly the same thing we did here. We brought it from 3,000 to 4,750. And I was going to say to you, without going into my liturgy, except you brought up a couple times about the prior administration, of which I am responsible. When you came to us with a legitimate need for additional funds, we rolled our sleeves up and we found it. And I will tell you again, if you come to us with a legitimate request, I cannot promise you we'll fund it, but I will promise you that the 3 of us will do our best to figure out how we could, if we can. So, everybody's request for budget is not granted.
Oh, I
In
know.
fact, I don't know if anybody got the full amount. I don't think so. I could be wrong. You know, you came, yours was actually, and I understand what Commissioner Candidate said, you got more than you got last year, but in the scheme of things, you really got less, because you got 6,000 last year, but it was a special allocation on the second. So, I'm not defending, I'm just explaining the comments that have been made. I have made them, I stand by them. I still feel that it's a lot of money to spend on any single project in the county. So that's where we are. But I will say to you, looking at the history, I agree with you. I know that you've got $6,000 in the past. We funded $4,750, and if you come to us with a legitimate concern, I cannot promise you'll get the money, but I will promise you that these 3 commissioners will do their very best to try and honor it, just like we did last time.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and I know that that's true. I just thought it would be helpful to have the figures in front of you,
Good.
and you could see, better understand.
Okay.
appreciate it,
Thank
thanks.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I guess I jumped, didn't I?
No,
No, you didn't.
we already did that.
We
I
already
know,
did
I'm
it.
saying I jumped that.
Well, yeah,
Got
you,
into the planning commission before it was on the.
'Cause she was
agenda.
here.
Yes, sir.
I just have one statement.
Yes.
I'd just like to see the past be buried and move on.
Yeah, you know, and I agree, and I don't think anybody in this room would argue against that. Sometimes it's hard. I get that. I think human nature, but yep, we're moving forward. I apologize for skipping you on the agenda. That was my fault. I went straight to planning and zoning and,
Well, that was
You didn't
done
skip
under
her,
the
you just
planning-
did it up in
that
old
was
business.
Under staff, you did staff
It just,
reports.
it just made a sense to
Which we
do
already
it.
agreed to.
well, yeah, that's true.
So we can move now to.
Yeah, all right. Pest eradication on county-owned property. Yes.
If I may.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke yesterday with Mike Carter, who's the equivalent of Jackie hobby for Westcliff. He asked me to relay information to you, so I'd like to relay information.
Okay.
There's no vote, I don't believe. If there is, I'll recuse myself since I've been involved in this with Westcliff. The question came about the eradication of those fuzzy little things that Beaufort, what are they called? Groundhog.
Black-tailed prairie dogs.
Prairie dogs, thank you.
And voles.
And what the plan was, well, the plan still is, although it's probably going to fall apart.
See around
The
the
four entities enter into an agreement to eradicate them. The thought was that if any one of them does not, it's probably not worth doing at all because it's either do it all or don't do it. The four entities were Westcliff, Silvercliff, the county, and the Hager property. The question came up with how much money would this project cost and whose allocation would be. And because of our recent acquisition of the Hager project, the county portion of that would be, we're not exactly sure if we broke it out to a square foot type allocation. So we don't really know. What we do know is that if the county, if all four organizations agreed, Westcliff would put in 1,000, Silvercliff would put in, I believe it was 700. The Hagers, who already approved, go ahead on this, was 1,000 also. So, I thought I said something, I apologize. And the county share would be no greater than $1,000 if all four entities did it. It appears at this time that Silvercliff is inclined not to do it, although they haven't said they would. So I told Mike, if they're not going to do it, don't come all the way down here and spend half a day for this. So I just want to bring up to speed that if the three other entities say they're willing to do it, the commitment to the county would be $1,000 if in fact you choose to do it. So that's just the update on it. It's an eradication project for the prairie dogs.
When was it supposed to be?
They're willing, they're ready to do it at any time, once the agreement is done. Mike may have a better handle on when is the optimal time to eradicate prairie dogs. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah, black-tailed prairie dogs do have some kind of a, I don't even know what word to use. I don't want to say protection because I think that's a little overstated, but they are, the black-tailed prairie dog in Colorado is handled differently than the regular prairie dog. I don't know if we're going to get into some kind of a deal there or not, but I would defer to Mike to do a little research on that.
Is it a purebred colony of blacktails
yeah.
we're dealing with?
AKC register?
Yeah, jeez.
I've had some angst from community members when they realized that we were in a lease purchase agreement on the property that we did sign contracts on. And their concern was, hey, don't be doing something to chase prairie dogs off of your property onto our property, which they happen to live right across the street.
Valid question.
It is a valid point. If and when we get to the point of breaking ground and doing any kind of construction on a justice center, those prairie dogs would leave ASAP on their own. But I'm not sure that that's a prudent approach on our part to just say, well, whatever. So I would be willing as a commissioner to consider this further if we find out if Silvercliff wants to be.
That's exactly where I am.
Yeah, me
today.
too.
If the three say yes, Westcliff and the Hager folks both said we're in. Silvercliff was very questionable. So I said the county would make a final decision once we know the other three are in. So I just left us as the swing vote at the end.
Yeah, if we need to do something more formal, I guess we can bring it back to another meeting. But I drive down that part of Hermit Road, and I'm not thrilled to see all the prairie dog mounds out there.
They're bad.
Certainly, to me, it's unsightly, but that's something we can discuss. So thank you.
Not only unsightly, it's dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous as well. That's right. So, anything else, sir, on that?
No,
Okay.
I just want to give you
All
an
right.
update. Thank you.
Yep. I asked Brenda to put this finance backup and funding on the agenda again as more of an informational thing. I don't anticipate any action item here, but this stems from the discussion we had at a prior board meeting, I believe it was our last board meeting, about do we have a backup person to deal with Donna Hobby's job in the event Donna Hobby was unable to do that for whatever reason and for whatever length of time, and our answer was really no. So originally, when her position was funded, I think initially it was thought that about a fourth of her time could be spent with budget process. That morphed into about half time on paper, but nothing was really ever done. So we're just kind of formalizing that whole situation where now Brenda is spending time in Donna's office. I don't want to sound degrading here, but getting up to speed on an assistant finance person. Is that reasonable, Brenda?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
She wanted it?
yeah, she was willing to do that. It was part of their original agreement, really, when she was hired to serve in that capacity, but it just never got formalized, never really moved forward. She's been helping Donna, but not to the point where if Donna was incapable of doing her job, I don't think Brenda had been in a position to do all of that, and so that's what we're trying to remedy. So
can I ask a question if I may, please? And maybe it's really to Brenda. If, God forbid, Donna got hit by lightning tomorrow, God forbid.
Or run over by a livestock.
Or run over by trying to load.
Could happen. Who knew?
I mean, God forbid. But it could happen. Do you feel that you could step in and kind of take over and learn and keep the process afloat? Do you know enough? Are you a backup if a disaster occurred?
Yeah, and I think that's where we're at now, where I'm sitting with Donna, I'm doing her stuff, I'm writing it all down so we have formal documentation of what needs to be done. There are a lot of, and I think Donna's been doing this job for so long, she knows like all the, oh, this could happen, that could happen.
Right, and that would be a...
It would be, yeah, it would probably be a, oh my God.
stumbling block deal.
Right, if she weren't there, but hopefully once we get through this training and we have all the documentation, it will be enough if something should ever happen to her.
And we've just started this in the last week or so, so it's just in the early stages.
I
But
think it's wonderful, and you're okay with this, right?
Yes.
so if
I'm very pleased.
in the event any of us here, where's your assistant? Like nobody will answer the phone. That's why. Because she is going to be out of the office part-time for the next, we figured probably next 2 or 3 months.
To get up to
To
speed.
get up to speed on being in a, formerly I would guess I would call it an assistant finance officer. So that's just, I asked her to put that on there just so we could have that conversation. So, Ms. Brenda, anything else?
No, it's going good.
Okay, thank you. All right, discussion of oak disposal landfill fees. I think at the last meeting we've asked Rusty if he wouldn't mind coming down and visiting with us a little about that. You're welcome to come forward, sir.
So while Rusty's coming forward, I'm hearing undertones that a new sanitation company is about to commence.
Yeah.
That is true.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good morning.
How are you? How are you?
Whatever time it is. What time is it anyway?
Tomorrow, somewhere.
11:30.
Yeah, it's 5 somewhere. Where's the martinis?
When was the last time we addressed commercial fees at the landfill?
2014.
2014. Do you know what those figures were and what they are? I mean, what they what they were before?
It was 8, and we went up to 8:30.
So it was prior to 2014. It was $8 a cubic yard.
For all commercial guys? Or just oak?
Is
Just
there just oak or a commercial?
Yeah, it was just oak disposal.
Okay. All right. So not all commercial. If somebody wanted to
Yeah,
bring
we
in.
really don't get
8:30.
Well, every once in a while, we'll get somebody in there, but not very
Do you
often.
charge them 8:30?
No.
So at 2014, it went to 830 a cubic yard, is that correct?
So what did you mean by no, Rusty?
Is Oaks paying me?
Oak's paying 830 now,
Right.
and other commercial guys are paying
10.
10. Okay, that's,
And as Rusty's provided us here, 35 cents of that for every cubic yard goes to the state. So our revenue stream, $7.95 a cubic yard.
Right.
What is the logic between, for us to give a financial incentive to a private industry? I have a problem with things like that.
there was a reason initially. What was it?
Yeah, they were just trying to help the new business get started, I guess.
The commissioners at the time.
It was before my time even. They've been doing it ever since the landfill opened.
I'm just going to voice his opinion, and maybe Clint will hit me with his cane right there. But I just have a real problem when we have private industry with different scales of payment based upon you're local, you like you, your family, whatever, versus the guy who just comes in and pays. I personally don't like
Yeah,
that.
I was just getting their trash business started. And they just kind of kept up with it for all these years.
So,
What's the rate for private citizens?
10.
And that's for other commercial.
That's what we charge.
Others also,
So if
right?
anybody else comes to the landfill, it's $10 a cubic yard.
Which they're not hauling in 10,593 cubic yards a year either. So that's the other thing I think we have to be cognizant of, that we're talking about a lot of volume here. It's not
Exactly.
versus maybe a private citizen going out there 14, 15 times a year.
If
I
that.
don't have my calculator, but that's a heck of a saving. You send 10,500 times the difference between $1.70. I mean, you're looking at what? Close to $20,000 a year break we're giving to a private sanitation company.
well, yeah, I agree. Look at it in two
There's a
ways.
sense of community.
You got another company going to come up, and let's say you gave them the same price, 830, whatever it is. I would think if you gave everybody that is high traffic area, that's fine. You mentioned a lot of traffic, so if there was no commercial outfit, everybody would be driving our roads and congesting there and rusting. It would be a big headache getting a jillion cubic yards in there. So I'm just asking, is it then reasonable that you would give them a little lower price in order to do the job of using their gas to carry everybody else's trash in here? That would be the logic. I don't think it's that much. But on the other hand, I think they're paying too little.
You and everybody in here who hires Oak
I know.
Disposal pays them.
I know, and
So
so
it's not like we're,
Right.
the county. I wonder if we ought to be subsidizing them is what it sounds like.
that's what
And now,
my issue is.
just to go to the level number 2, which really prompted all this, especially in light of their significant increase in fees.
They jack their prices up.
Well, I don't know.
It's
I mean,
like,
this is not, I'm not trying to be petty in terms of, well, you're taking advantage of all of our citizens, so now we're going to charge you more. I'm really questioning, should we be charging them less in the first place?
Well, and you got another company coming in, how do you make them competitive with each other? What do they do to be more efficient, to get more trash to us, or to make more money?
Well,
I
if we
think
follow the same
competition's
procedure,
good.
I would say the new company ought to get a $1.70 break for the first, how many years?
Yeah, that's right.
Bring Oak back up to full, because they've been in business for, 10 years, regardless who the owner was, but they've been in business for however long. And the new guy gets a break for whatever period of time to equal. I mean, if we were going to be equitable, that would be the thing.
See, I would, as a Joe citizen, I'd like to know, I'd like to go to the cheapest outfit. How do I, if they're both the same price, what's the advantage?
Go buy gas in town, it's the same thing. I mean,
I
they're
don't
all
know.
the same, basically.
Yeah,
So, I don't
weird.
know.
It's a weird deal.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's not a precedent by any means, but it certainly historically looks like that's what's been done. That doesn't mean I'm going to vote to do the same thing just because. I don't buy into that. But I do believe that our commercial, I don't care if it's Oak Disposal or anyone else, I believe our commercial rate is low. I'd like to see that $9 a cubic yard, but before I make that motion, I'd like to have your opinion about that, because if that's ignorant, then I'm not going to make the motion.
Well, I don't think $1 is unreasonable from 8:30 to 9:30. Just because the state keeps raising their rates for these surcharges.
Right.
And we have the expansion to think of. We have a lot of things to think of at that landfill that's going to cost the county a lot of money.
Right. Now, I'll ask you this question. Has anybody come to you recently asking if they started a new business, what their rates would be?
No. I think they probably all know
Probably
that,
do.
that we're going to talk about it. Okay. Possibly.
Yes, sir.
How much is one of those trucks carry?
25
Biggest one they
yards?
have is 25 yards.
25 cubic yards?
Yep. So at
smash her
$8, and I was thinking about this the other day, I don't remember the figure, I'll redo it again, but at $8.30 a yard times $25, which is really, it's $207 a load to dump at the landfill.
$25 if you did what Rusty is,
Pardon?
and you'd raise it by $25
Yes, that's right.
if you.
That's right, it'd be like $232. So, again, as a commissioner, I don't want to get bogged down in what company we're talking about. I'd rather discuss this
Commercial rate.
commercial rate. And so.
I'll be flat, period. What do you call commercial users, Rusty? A contractor that's hauling in a dump truck load of wallboard?
Right. Whether it be Cypher, Kagan, whoever.
But if I brought in,
If they come in with a tandem axle dump truck, I figure that's a commercial vehicle.
but if I brought in personally a tandem axle dump truck
As a rancher.
as a landowner,
It's the same.
Then that would be $10.
He's charging all the
so
land.
it doesn't matter who it is, it's
Right.
more wrapped around what vehicle is that a commercial
The
vehicle.
only what time it makes a difference is when I fill out these quarterly reports for the state. And so you have autos, station wagons, vans, pickups, trailers, and then commercial vehicles.
Okay.
So I figure a commercial
Outside of
vehicle
that.
would be tandem axle dump truck, single axle dump truck.
Go ahead.
Thank you. What do the surrounding landfills charge for the commercial trucks that we currently have located?
Most of them are the same as the landfill price. So if they charge $10 at the landfill, then they charge commercial. But most of them go by tons.
Okay, so
Not
you really can't equate what we charge. I just want to make sure we're not way overcharging or way
No, in
undercharging.
fact, there's some landfills that charge more for compacted trash because you burn more fuel, you have to tear that cube out when it comes out of those trucks. You have to
Break
work
it
at it,
down.
tear it up, and get it how you want it in the landfill itself. So there's a process to that where you burn more fuel, and so there's landfills that actually charge more for compacted trash.
So is it a cubic yard uncompacted or a cubic yard compacted? I mean, you get
Well, probably compacted in the trash trucks.
right. You're just.
But in a trailer, it may not.
It would be a lot more
Still
after you
volume.
break it open.
If you do it by weight, the compacted would be much more.
Would it be reasonable or fair to say we're going to raise these landfill rates effective a certain date down the calendar? Give everybody prior notice?
Yeah, I think the county can do it anytime they want to.
I would agree. But
So
should we?
We could just pick a date, get started on it. If you want to do it January 1st,
That's what I'm
2019, get
thinking.
started on it.
Make it retroactive last year.
Now,
Catch up.
well, get it out of there, take it back out. I stuck my foot in my mouth last time I made this kind of suggestion, but I'm gonna bring it up again because I got a big mouth and a big foot.
Take it.
I talked about landfill fees being put into a separate account for expansion, that type of thing. Since we haven't budgeted for the additional revenue, I would like to suggest that the additional revenue not budgeted as income be put into account for expansion, landfill, and whatever else, anomalies that happen, not just go directly into the general fund. So if we agree to do something with fees, I would like to recommend we do that.
So I think that's a good idea. Right now, everything's $10 a cubic yard if we bring Oak up to speed, in which it should be. Right? Is that what you're doing?
I was saying it'd be $9.30 for commercial vehicles.
No, I'm just, okay, so $9.30. We're giving the commercial guys because of the traffic. Well, for whatever reason, I think that's fine. Shouldn't we look at, is $10 for the local Joe Blow the right fee, or should it be $10 and a nickel so we can save some?
No, I think 10 is fine.
I do. Okay. Want to make sure we're on the same sheet.
Yeah, I think that rate is still good. $2 a bag up to 3 bags, and then $10 a cubic yard.
I don't want to drive it into the bar pit.
I would move that we raise commercial landfill price to $9.30 a cubic yard.
I'll second it.
And earmark that money to go in to an expansion
The
fund.
difference.
The dollar.
The dollar amount.
Oh, yeah, the dollar increase.
Yeah, the dollar
Yeah.
The
increase.
increase to be saved.
Because we have got to earmark some money.
We have to start, even though it's small, we've got to start swirling some of it.
Beginning January 1 is the rest of my motion.
So how are you going to separate that, and we're going to know the
Well,
difference?
we want
It's going to
to
have to book it sometime.
put cardboard in there too, the money we get from cardboard, metal, and aluminum.
Into the fund.
Here's the issue. If you put it into your budget already, the income for that, it's already earmarked to balance our budget. That's where I got in trouble last time, that's how I learned. So if we change that, then whatever you move out of, because that goes in general fund, if we move it from general fund into a reserve fund for landfill, there'll be that gap in the general fund. So I would say at this point, no.
I think we
Because
could-
during negotiations, when we were talking budget, I raised the question, are we squirreling anything away for a vernacular way of,
And Jay, that's a good
allocating
point.
money? And the answer was, no, we didn't have in the budget this year.
Yeah.
This will at least give us a little start.
You got a cushion. And I think we can look at it toward the last quarter or the quarter before, and then we can decide to go put it in this.
Absolutely.
Make the
If
decision to do it rather than saying, go buy a new car.
If we find revenues are in excess of what was budgeted, which is just an estimate, or expenses are lower,
Yeah.
I would certainly
Make a
advocate
deliberate
taking
issue.
that difference in real money and putting it into the savings account.
Is there a second to the motion?
I say.
It's been moved and seconded to raise the commercial landfill rate to $9.30 a cubic yard, effective January 1, 2019, with that dollar a cubic yard additional revenue to be earmarked for the landfill and not going into the general fund. Further discussion, comments from the public?
I'm confused. You said Oak is paying $8.30. You said everybody else, other commercial, is paying 10. Did I hear that wrong?
Well, they're Oak Disposal is the commercial trash company
Right.
that brings in, say, 10,000 or more yards a year.
He's keeping it at
So
the
once in
tonnage.
a while, you might get a tandem axle dump truck that comes to the landfill, which we have to report as a commercial vehicle.
But they'd be paying 10.
Right.
The same as
Right, private
you guys
citizens.
or I would be paying. Okay.
Just to, excuse me. Okay, just to come off of what Ms. Lewis is saying, if and when this new company does start bringing in, they would be at the 9:30 like Oaks because they're competitor.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure they're not at the 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we probably ought to look at how we define commercial. If somebody truly is commercial and they don't happen to own a trash disposal business, we should probably be charging them $9.30 a cubic yard. But that, I would defer that to your judgment.
Let's leave it to him to decide.
Yeah, it's
But I
true.
think the commissioners would back you up if you said, no, you're commercial, it's $9.30 versus
As
10.
long as it's local. You know, you don't want these guys coming from Colorado Springs or from
Well,
Fremont
believe me,
County
we're a lot
or
closer
from
to
wherever.
Werfener than Crowley County, and they're hauling their trash to Crowley County. So exactly, what if we get 2 or 3 trash trucks a month coming from Werfener County?
$25 a cubic yard.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, sir. Any further discussion? We have a motion on the table. Hearing none, no further public comment, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of raising the commercial landfill rate to $9.30 a cubic yard effective January 1, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming down.
Thanks,
Sorry
Rusty.
you had to wait so long.
What?
I don't know,
Say local only?
probably, Rusty,
Say local only, or?
our newspaper reporter's asking, could she report that as local only, or
Or
That's
do we want
trash.
to not, like, poke that bear?
I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't even bring it up. It's just the trash prices are X.
Because we've never turned away anybody from outside the county, correct?
Outside of the county is double.
Huh?
That's in writing somewhere? Okay, so then we can say,
These rates apply to in-county,
Custer County, only.
Custer County only.
Because we're not a regional landfill, we're a local landfill.
Right.
So out of county is double.
okay, good.
And you know that because of their license plate or what?
Used to be easy when it was
Yeah, it
ZA.
was.
Yeah,
You have to ask them and they have to say, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm only
I
this
don't get a
far
lot
over
of
the
that
county
anyway.
line, come on.
Yeah, give me a break.
All right, thank you, sir. Signing of the Custer County Fairgrounds Strategic Plan MOU. Gentlemen, I asked that to be on the agenda. I think I provided you with that copy
Yep.
to review ahead of time. This was between the University of Colorado, Denver, and Department of Local Affairs and ourselves.
Well, a comment.
Yes.
I read every word. I had to wake myself up a couple of times
Okay.
because it was kind of sleepy.
That's different. We're talking about the MOU. Now, you may reference that, but I just want you to know that's,
All right.
all right. Yeah, I'm with you.
You're talking about the DOLA?
Yeah, the DOLA MOU,
University of Colorado, Denver.
Grand or whatever it was?
Yes, 34.
3450.
So, yeah, we're looking at about a $5,750 grant, and the match is $3,450, and the Fair Board has voted to pay that match. It will not cost the county, county funds, so that's the MOU. I would move that we sign the MOU.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to sign the MOU between DOLA, the University of Colorado, Denver, and Custer County. Discussion, public comment. Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Maybe, aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries.
Wake everybody up.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. You want this?
Oh, I don't know.
Kelly might want it. I doubt it. Discussion regarding the S-Brand strategic plan. Gentlemen, I believe you received the email, as did I, from one Mr. Bogle on behalf of the Economic Development Company. Questions, comments?
I don't have any business in all this. I think it's a private corporation. I think they have a right to do whatever in the world they choose to do within the legal limits of the law.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned from day one, I had some serious angst about this. I continue to have that. I'm not real thrilled about the way they approached it. I think they backdoored us, going to the newspaper and I believe trying to make it appear like it was all well and done and no problems, when in fact that wasn't the case, because I think some of the commissioners voiced some concern about the thing, but I also agree with what you're saying. I think it's out of our hands.
Well, it's like Custer County Realty, they can call themselves
Exactly.
Custer County.
Yeah.
The only issue I had was who paid, who was there a grant? Jay, I wasn't around when they did that we had to sign in back of the county to get the grant from the state.
No, it was all.
'Cause I know the language reads even public entities
No,
can go
because
after
I would
them.
agree with you if we, kind of like the Bluff proposal, if we sign it, we're intimately involved.
Right.
And then we have a right to say anything we want, and I would agree with you.
Right.
But this was totally a private, to the best of my knowledge, and if someone can tell me I'm wrong, I'll
Well, I don't know, the previous commissioners did sign something, or
No,
did they?
To
And
the best
evidently
of
they
my
did.
knowledge,
Okay.
we were not involved in this at all.
Then why did they come to us to ask
Oh,
us
I
to
think
look
they
at it?
wanted our blessing so that they could,
Kind of as a county.
exactly. That's my opinion.
So did we ever see the grant?
Yes.
And it was to the,
The Economic Corp. And
Believe
the
it or
other
not,
three
I
entities.
just got this day before yesterday, Economic Development Corporation.
that was the Blueprint 2.0 grant, was to the CCEDC.
Yep.
And municipalities, weren't
That
they?
was all I have. That's
They
all
part-
I
Uh,
have.
I thought it was a four-edged prong.
It was, the implementation of the grant was, but Economic Development Company applied for the
Okay, and they didn't have to sign up
from
to.
That was
OEDIT.
the only question I've had all this
And
time.
I think your point is extremely correct and on point. If we did sign off on it, if we
Sure.
sanctioned it, if we're the agent for it, now we have
And that was
say
not
in it.
clear.
We would have say in it.
Right, yeah.
But I don't believe that's the case.
Well,
And I would like to, let me find it here real quick, go on record as saying, and it is my opinion, Counselor, you certainly jump in if I'm way out in left field, Economic Development Company sent us their position letter. I don't believe that's necessarily fact, that's their position. Would that be a correct assumption?
I believe so. I think
I mean,
they were told that you wanted them here
Right.
to answer some questions,
Right.
and this is their
Right.
response to that.
And I'm certainly not calling anybody a liar. I'm just saying I can write a position paper and make all kinds of statements in it. It doesn't mean it's fact. It's my
Exactly
opinion.
right.
That's what I'm getting at.
That's what a position paper is. My-
So, Mr. Bogle certainly has indicated in the documents that they are the sole owner of, they being the Custer County Economic Development Corporation,
they can do whatever they
are
want.
the sole owner of that brand and tagline.
That's what he alleges, and I have no reason to.
Thank you.
I have no reason to doubt it, but that's an allegation that is not a fact in my opinion.
Thank you. And that's where I was just headed.
I agree with you.
So,
As long as the grant was made to them, then the product of the grant is theirs. I was under the impression that it was made for tourism. I stand corrected. I'm happy. I just wanted to see what the paperwork said.
right.
That's what it was,
Didn't know.
what I
Your
did.
point is well taken, your concerns are correct, and let's get to the bottom of it. If we find out that it is not correct, and your assumption originally is correct, we're gonna take a step back and we're gonna review it. And that's all there is to it.
And Mr. Vogel says the related grant request was submitted by the Custer County Economic Development Corporation as a coordinated effort of members of the roundtable. The roundtable is an informal collaboration of 4 local organizations: Chamber of Commerce, CART, Economic Development Company, and Tourism Board.
But have we seen the grant paperwork?
Yes.
I have it right here.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, that's
Yes.
all I care about.
That's all that's on there.
That was my full
We have been requesting that for over 3 months.
I
And
don't know why they didn't talk.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. Was the only answer I needed.
Well, they could have answered that the day we asked the question when they presented it. They didn't,
Well,
so.
and I'll go on the record as saying I agree with Chairman Flower that it seemed to, I don't want to use the word underhanded, but it certainly wasn't upfront. Let's discuss it. Here are the facts.
Yeah, it's like,
And I felt that was inappropriate. I agree with you.
Yeah,
We
thank
had
you.
to fish it out of them. We had to threaten them. We had to get involved
Yeah,
much
they
more
just-
than we needed to. If they would have just given us the facts in the first place,
it would have been an
none of
issue.
this
well,
would
not
have happened.
only that, there was confusion in, after the fact on what that logo was. Did the county agree to it? How come you guys got your, I mean, that was in the newspaper.
And that's exactly my point.
That needs to be
If you
straightened
would've
out.
been upfront about it, this would have solved the
Official.
issue.
That- We don't have that as a logo. It's not a county logo.
Right.
Now, it's a private company's logo. They have taken that on as a private
To me.
company.
I will certainly
And that's-
make that clarification in the paper.
Yeah, that's really
because I was the
clarifying.
one that was asking the question.
And it's appropriate.
Yeah.
But
Because the
no
county-
one is just
Oh, I
saying anything
understand.
negative
Well-
to you for asking. That's your job.
Nope.
Well, and we followed up. That's why we chased it.
County commissioners
We all have angst over this.
never, we were presented that logo and branding effort. That was it.
Right. Well, and I was
And we all
part of the
voiced our
tourism
opinion.
board at the time, and I couldn't find it in my notes, so I was asking the question. I don't know.
Well, I asked it for over 2
Thank you.
months and
I
finally
appreciate that.
did get an answer, so.
Go home.
I think we're getting close. Public comment. Hello, sir. Hearing none, chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just a minute.
I move.
Just a second. Wait a minute. Don't do it yet. Because I got to give you something. So well, the three of us are here to prepare us for the next meeting.
Okay.
So
So
don't
it's
give
kind
up.
of, you had
This is just
mentioned
info.
in your
Right.
commissioner.
I said I'd
items that
talk
you
about
wanna
it
do
at the end during
Okay.
public comment.
Go ahead.
So, as you know, we are administrating and are executing the strategic plan for the county.
Correct.
And S. Brand's consultant, lady named Cheryl Trent, is coming. And I want her to be here, and we can choose what day, either the first or the second. Right now, it's probably the first. She'll come down and introduce herself, and I'm going to give you this. This is just so we can think about it.
And I apologize, you are on the agenda with this item. I got confused and
I
started
know,
talking about.
both are
the-
good. It's okay.
Started talking about the other one.
Give Clint one of those.
I don't know why.
And I'll give, so all this is, it just talks about her coming down here. Now, before you read it, let me remind you what I've already given you. We already have a grant that's paying for her services. We
Right.
changed the timeline over what Charles and company had executed, and they had gone off without us even aware of it.
Right.
And so I'm going to give you this as a reminder because it's helpful. This is the scope of what she's going to do. This tells you what item is there. The timeline is. I might have something else attached to that.
Yeah.
Let me have that. Let me have that one back.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's just another one. And so this just shows you, we got rid of the timeline, the actual budgeted items are there, and she said she's going to execute it exactly the same. She's tailored it for us now based upon my conversations and our discussions in the past. So part of the plan involves two kinds of committees. One's a what they call the steering committee, and she had a proposal that Charles put together for them, and this was their steering committee, and this is what I want us to discuss after she explains it. And you notice there's asterisks on here that there's two of them there. You get one.
She's coming down to a meeting, you said?
Yeah, she'll come down and introduce herself and explain all this
Okay.
so we can listen to her, how she's doing it.
Pre-meeting info.
Right, this is pre-meeting to prepare us for it.
Okay.
You notice she has asterisks there. Evidently Charles had assumed or talked to everybody, but he got commitments from these guys. And this was people that they proposed beyond this steering committee, and it can be any amount. It's elected officials. For example, I don't think the Fremont County District School District, it matters, to tell you the truth, and I would rather see in a steering committee some local rancher or a vested person in the community that ought to be involved, maybe from a contracting or commercial, whatever. You all ought to think about who you would like to see on there, is my suggestion. And we can add and subtract on this. The school district, I think, is fine, and the fire department, that makes sense. Is the fire department even on here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So just take a look at this, and it doesn't really matter the numbers, but we want to keep it at a reasonable amount. So that's the steering committee. Then there's a group that's called a task force. And I don't. Those are not picked right now. But if you'll look on her, I think I have another handout I'll give you. It talks about the task force.
Well, it's at the top of this, Bill.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah, it was on the top. Then I'm sorry.
I hate to show my ignorance, but could you explain what she foresees different between a steering committee and a...
Oh, that's what I'll get to. No, read what she has on the task force there. I got to find my task force there. And she'll explain that too. It can be anybody: developers, power companies, internet companies, water, library. So it's and in fact, some of the people on the task force, she explains, can be also one or two of the committee members. You know, like maybe the fire department or whatever. Because the task force has a little bit different job. They're taking a look at the survey, and we'll rewrite the survey. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of this hard copy of the survey questions that went out online without us knowing. Also, here's a survey. This is I only copied the first two things just as an example, because the questions need to be tailored toward what the task force group who are discussing the strategic vision want to get out of the strategic plan.
Right.
So you would like to have questions that are angled toward that end. And so the task force does that. The steering committee is who actually is the decision body. That's why it has to have an odd number on it, so that you could make a decision on, well, we really like this, and you get discussion and a consensus. So you can take a look at that. Now, what's the end product? The end product looks something like this. This is what they did for Pasadena. This is the first, it's the introduction to the strategic plan. I think their strategic plan had 27 pages in it. And you'll see that in here. The table of contents is there. So this is all malleable. It's what the task force will produce based upon the survey they put out, upon the people's opinion of the task force who are representing the diverse makeup of our county. And then you come up with how you want it to look. You get in this case, and I'm a strong believer in a statement by the leadership. In this case, it would be the Custer County Commissioners. We have a statement about how great this is and why we need to do this. You also have a vision statement, goals and objectives in order how you're going to get to that vision. Our vision might be the greatest little county in Colorado.
We already are.
Combined, yeah. I call it the center of the universe. We're going to center the universe of Colorado. And then you come up with goals and objectives that you actually execute and budget for. That's when we start doing our economic development pieces, and we see somebody comes up here with a great idea to put in a rubber making manufacturing company. Well, maybe that doesn't fit our vision for a local rural area, whatever. So that's sort of what will happen. Now, what our plan is, instead of, I don't even know how it got out, all of a sudden those questions were on the internet. I said, well, how did they find them? Well, it was in our website. Well, how many people go to the website? So I would suggest in our discussion with her next week, we figure out how we want to get that survey out so that on the, whatever the timeline she's got here on the 7th of January, we start executing it by getting people together.
If I could just jump in for 1 second. There is a fella in town, actually he's out in the county, not in the town, who has purportedly every email of every person in Custer County.
Yeah.
How we got it, I don't know. But
Oh, really?
then we would email it. That would be the way to do it.
Well, you know, and the other thing is to, I would say I would go to the local businesses and post the survey and have copies of the survey that they can hand do it. Not everybody has a computer. You know, there's some survivalists out in Centennial Ranch that might want to have a say in it. You know, but you know, but you see, but she says, if you'll notice what she says both. She says both opponents and proponents. You need to hear the opponent's view to help you get a better proposal out. See. So I think she's on. I was really worried about it when I first started talking to her. But what she was doing is taking direction directly from our CCEDC guys. And if you look at one of them, it even has Charles Bogle was listed as the guy. And you notice on here it had their this is it right here. See, it's Charles Bogle. It's all about the company. That's not. It's about Custer County, not that corporation. So I was worried about where she was coming from, and so she just jumped right in and said, oh, whatever you guys want. And I said, you're working for us, not that corporation.
Okay, and that's where I was going right now. I got a major angst with this. If Charles is taking the lead, going out on his own, I don't mean Charles, I'm talking about
that corporation.
Development Corporation. If they're going out on their own, developing surveys, sending them out to people, and using Custer County.
That's right.
That is totally inappropriate.
First time I've ever seen those survey questions was when...
Well, we funded part of it.
We did, I know it. But he never coordinated a jack squat with us.
We need oversight.
That's right. And we never had any input. Nobody had any input on these questions, which can be tailored toward a certain angle.
Sure. Absolutely.
So anyway, I was really glad to get involved, and we just need to stay on top of it. And she's really got a great attitude, and she'll work good with us. And I'm looking forward to having her come in. And you notice what she says. She wants to introduce herself, talk about the process and the timeline. We want to get the survey out and promote the fact the survey's coming out. We're going to see it in the newspapers. We're going to see it.
You said it was already out.
No,
well, it was.
We pulled it back. I had her pull it back.
They put it up.
Goodness.
Took it out, and I said it's not. And I said, how many people did it? And she said, oh, maybe 60 people. But I'm not going to go down that route where 8 people answered, and the county reacts to 8 people's opinion.
Fortunately, that may be the reality.
Well, maybe, but we'll see. And then she's going to talk about the process. She's going to gain acceptance over the deliverable. In other words, what kind of a deliverable will it be? Something with the vision, mission, or not? We can discuss that. And then answer any questions. So she would like to take 15 to 20 minutes in a meet either on the 1st or the 2nd.
Good.
So now you got you're armed with every bit of info.
Good. Are we reining in the Custer County Economic Development Corporation?
I haven't. I told
moving forward without county approval since county funded this.
I told him.
See, this is exactly like Ms. Boo was concerned about the last thing, the logo and all that stuff. And it's appropriate. We are funding it. We need to oversee it.
Right. And I told, and I made it clear to her. I said, "You're not." And those are the words I use. You're working for us, not Charles.
Perfect.
And I did call Charles, and I said, we're going to pull this in. And he argued a little bit, but then he went somewhere, and I haven't heard a word. He hasn't gotten involved at all in any of this.
Well, thank you for doing this legwork.
I appreciate it, really.
Again, if the county hadn't funded any part of this, and this was all some private company doing it, we have nothing to say about it.
Right.
That's not the case here.
Now, let me give you this. This is the last thing. This is the timeline revised. It doesn't have the scope, the dollar amount, because it doesn't need to be on it. You've already got that. So.
Pretty colors. Do you realize it costs $25?
That was my printer. I did on myself at home.
We're going to look at your expense account.
Did Clint get one of these? I haven't turned a dime in, have I?
He did.
So this tells you when they want to get started, the 7th, and this goes through the same things that they'll be talking about when she comes up here.
This is good. Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, are you guys gonna tweak this a little bit?
We're gonna
or
have
is
that
it-
task force rewrite it.
Because I just have one suggestion,
What?
and just coming from things that I've heard from people on other surveys. The first two questions on this, if you were somebody who had been born and raised here, lived here forever, the first two questions put you totally off there.
Right.
Because
That's why
it's
we're,
not-
this is not what we're doing.
Right.
Okay,
The
good.
assumption is you're new to the valley and how you.
That's exactly
That's
Yeah,
not-
it's
that's not-
It's all
asking
tailored
the new
towards some
people,
foo-foo
and
stuff.
It doesn't give you, yes.
That was the problem with it.
That was the problem.
There's a great statement about surveys. If you want a specific answer, you have to ask the right question.
Yeah, that's right. They can.
They've already decided the answers they wanted.
Yes.
You tailor your question to that.
Right.
You don't care what the answers are, you just ask the question.
And they don't care about half of the community there.
No.
And
So,
is
that's
that-
exactly
Is that
right.
you're volunteering to be on one of the committees?
Actually,
No, my
she's on.
spare-
Don't
no,
we
my
have her
spare-
on as one of the elected officials in there? I think she's going to be on the
I
task
really
force.
would like to be part of.
Well, you can't.
one or both.
Well, you
I know
all
I
three of
already
us
am,
commissioners
but
are
I
the
mean,
steering
I would like
committee.
to be involved in the.
You can
sit
be
down with a group
the
and
task
talk.
force.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay,
Good.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I read that whole survey on Facebook when it was posted before it was taken down. And I thought there were a couple of glaring holes in it. Number one, it never really asked any questions about somebody who lived here because they work here.
Yeah.
That was never any part of it. And as Kelly eloquently stated, there was nothing in there about somebody who's lived here all their life and what is their opinions.
That's right.
So those were my two big issues with it, just looking at it quickly and
We will
roughly.
fix it.
Right.
Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Let me give you one last
Oh.
thing. We're not going to discuss it. We're not going to discuss it.
Okay,
I just,
Jackie.
I don't want to. I'm gonna. You asked me. I'm keeping you up to date on the airport.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's right.
And so I've got a letter from OT6 that says we're committed, and I'm going to give it to Clint, and we'll make sure that it covers this. They're doing two things. They're paying for everything they said they would, and so far they are. As a matter of fact, I've got a transmittal letter here for $25,500 that they gave us a check for already, and I just now got the bill from Armstrong for $25,500. So the process is working.
Perfect.
And then just a reminder, now I'm not going to give you this unless you want. I gave you guys this before. It's $1 million program that they're committing to. And what they really liked, which they put in their letter to us, is that not only are they paying for the stuff, but they're really glad to hear we're going after grants. And they've volunteered to pay half of the matching funds that are necessary to go after those grants. So that cuts our cost down.
Sure.
And they make that statement in here again. He says, I repeatedly told Canada that. But, you know, so they're legit, and they are following through, and this just reinforces it. So I'm going to give it, I just want to make sure, because we can't, just for the public, we don't talk about this except in this room.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
better make decisions. I'm being the program manager executing it, but not beyond what our authority, as we've agreed, is.
Right. Yeah, and I'm
Right.
doing the same thing with the land sales. I mean,
Yes, you're
we're
doing
moving
exactly the
forward
same
with
thing.
that, and it's the same deal. We're not going to do anything significant without bringing it to the board, but there's no reason
Right.
for all three of us to have to hammer out all these little details. That's why we.
All right, I move we adjourn.
Oh, by God.
I second.
Good move to second adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Hey, hop on hazard, don't go away without this.
Okay.
When you sent me